Okay, at 6:01, welcome everyone. This is the regular monthly meeting of the Gualala Municipal Advisory Council. This is our October 1st meeting. We've been doing virtual meetings now for I think 6 or 7 months, I believe it's been. So March or April, when did we start? I lost count. Anyway, we usually start off with our introductions and announcements. I see that all the council members are here. We've determined that. We have a couple other visitors, so that's good. Any announcements? Anyone? Okay. Then we've put under a consent agenda this month, we've put A, B, and C, the approval of the 3rd of September meeting minutes, any correspondence that we may have received, and the approval of our October 1st meeting agenda. Does anybody have anything they want to say about any of these items, or can we take a vote to approve them all at once?
I was wondering if we could move 7, H, and I closer to the beginning of the meeting.
And why would that be, Melissa?
Before I fall asleep.
Well, no, we're going to go right down the list here as we have the agenda, and we'll get to H and I before you know it, okay?
Okay.
So can we entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Okay, a second?
There's just one, so this.
Motion on the floor.
Yes, let's have a second on it first, Don, and then we can discuss it.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, and what would you want to say? I'm sorry.
It looks like we're approving the minutes also by this vote of the consent agenda. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, there was just one little minor correction in the minutes. Remember,
okay. I'll withdraw my motion.
Let's do that. Okay, withdraw it, and we'll deal with that. Okay, Don, go ahead.
Yeah, it's very minor, but remember when we were talking about EV stations, there was a company I mentioned.
Oh yeah, I saw that little Eric. Yeah.
The name of the company is FreeWire, not TreeWire. That's all.
FreeWire is the
name of the. It's very difficult to hear a F of a T, you know. When listening to you guys, it's very difficult to parse what you're saying. I had to play it 3 times and I still got tree. So right. I wrote it as that, was hoping that someone would get back to me before now on it.
I'm sorry I didn't catch that sooner.
Oh, okay. So any other edits to the minutes? Otherwise, we have pretty much, we're ready to vote on it, huh?
I'll move to approve as amended.
As amended, okay. And a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a slight edit to the approval of the minutes. Anything under correspondence or approval of tonight's agenda? Otherwise, we'll make one sweeping vote on this, okay? And that way we'll move along and we'll get to all our topics here within a reasonable amount of time.
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Tom. Go ahead, Mary.
Did everyone get the weekly THP notice of the Little North Fork THP 4 miles north of Gualala?
We did.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so Tom has the motion on the floor. Do we have a second? And we'll open it once more for discussion. Otherwise, we'll vote.
I'll second it.
Okay, Don will second it. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Melissa?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And Robert? I'm an aye. So good, we have unanimous approval on the consent agenda. Next, we have the public input on non-agenda items.
What about the agenda? That was correspondence.
Been approved.
We approved
Okay.
all the items under the agenda, number two, Mary.
Okay.
Okay, so I was going on to number 3, public input on non-agenda items. Is there anybody in the public or any of us council members that want to speak as a citizen to something that's not on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move right along to number 4. That's the Mendocino County Law Code Enforcement Report, and we have Mr. Matthew Kendall, or Matt, as you like to be called, right?
Yeah, usually my mother would use my brothers and I full name when we were really in trouble, and it still strikes a little fear in me when I hear Matthew.
I gotta cut that out. Matt, okay. Good to see you.
Good to see you folks as well. And it's nice to be able to be in my office for a moment and relax.
All right.
So currently, the sheriff's office is battling with a lot of different issues, including the fires, COVID, and some extreme violence that's been going on in the north and central areas of the county. We're going to get through these things. One of the first announcements I need to make is that Sergeant Joseph Comer is going to be taking the lieutenant's position on the coast. We tested, we had an acting lieutenant, Mike Digert, in there, and Mike did a very good job for me. He's a good friend who picked up the reins when I asked him to. Joseph is from the Point Arena area. He actually grew up right down there where my parents were from. And he's coastal born and raised. He knows the area. He's done an excellent job for me on various things. And so he's going to be sworn in as the coastal lieutenant. His assignment will begin on the 18th. So that's some good news for the coast. We've been working.
How do you spell his last name? How do you spell his last name?
C-O-M-E-R. It's Charles Ocean Mary Edward Robert Comer.
Thank you, sir.
A little bit of confusion because we also have a Lieutenant Cromer, and that's spelled C-R-O-M-E-R. They're two different people with one letter off in their name. We've been concentrating mainly on a lot of these theft issues that we've been having. We're still having a lot of different mailbox thefts and things like that. We picked up someone, I believe, just before the last MAC meeting, and I explained to you that those folks had made a gargantuan circle, came down the 101 over Highway 20, and we're going back up the one to Sebastopol. We're getting some traction on that type of thing slowing down. I've been working with the postmaster out of the Cloverdale area to make sure that we can get some more of those mail vaults in areas like Irish Beach. That should help. I'm not sure if you folks are having any issues down there with the rural mailboxes, especially, you know, going up the ridge up by Bower Park and whatnot like that. Those are areas that I would be concerned about. But as long as we stay vigilant on this and we continue to, you know, grab people who choose to commit these types of crimes, maybe we can stay away from putting those postal vaults on. The fires have taken a lot of time and a lot of resources from us. That's been pretty much all consuming at this point because we're seeing these rapid rates of spread that we've never seen before. And places where, you know, 20 years ago, arguably did not have good, excuse me, good microclimates for fire, like the coast. Well, I don't think that that's the truth anymore. I think the coast is very susceptible to fire right now, all the way down to the ocean. And so I'm hoping that all the messaging and everything that we're putting out will keep people very vigilant during these times, and especially with these offshore winds, things like that that are occurring. I think all of us have to really, truly look at hardening our space and educating our people. The biggest fear for me for years and years is the fact that, you know, we may have to evacuate that Brook Trails Township. And when we did, it was probably the smoothest evacuation that I've ever seen in my entire career. And the reason for that was all of this education that came out. People were ready to go. They had their go bags. They understood what the drill was going to be. They practiced it. And that education served us extremely well. We had no vehicle accidents, things like that. But we also ran into some issues that we hadn't foreseen, and we will be better with them next time. We had a lot of falls. We had a lot of people who had mobility issues that were just fine before COVID, but they'd been in their houses and hadn't gone very far, weren't getting the exercise. And when it came time to leave, we had a lot of people fall in their driveway and whatnot. And then next thing you know, we're running some medical aids to make sure that they're okay. And I think that we will be able to get ahead of that problem, get some more messaging out. All in all, though, I think it went really well. Besides that, you know, we're going to continue to work on the problems that we have and try to make it, you know, as peaceful as what we can for the county. But we're seeing a lot of things throughout the entire nation that are concerning right now. And we're in a strange time where everybody knows their rights, but to me, honestly, it seems like a lot of people have forgotten their responsibilities. So we'll just keep after it. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Sheriff, I do. This is Tom. You mentioned the mailbox thefts, and it reminded me of an anecdote I heard the other day from Marin County of people going around taking ballots out of mailboxes as they were being delivered. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you have a schedule for when the ballots will actually be delivered in Mendocino County, but I would ask your crew to keep an eye out for that sort of thing.
And thank you, Tom. We've already had discussions with son of a gun, and I can see her face and her name escapes me. Goodness gracious, her father was the sheriff here for 20 years. Katrina Bartlemay, I'm sorry. It's been a very long week. We've already had discussions regarding security on those ballots, security at polling stations. We've already had discussions regarding that. And so please trust me, your concerns are valid and they're heard, and we're making plans to get those types of things dealt with.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for being here tonight. I know it has been an extraordinary week, month, summer, and we really appreciate your time, sir.
Well, I hope that COVID ends, because I really do miss being able to get over to the coast. You know, that's one of those places I spent so much time when I was a kid there, because my parents had just left the coast shortly before I was born. So we spent a lot of time with my family over there. And it's almost like getting to go home when I get to run over there a couple of times a week, you know? So does anybody else have any questions
Matt,
for me?
I do. Robert, you were talking about Brooks Trails, or they had to evacuate. Was that this year?
Yes.
Okay.
That was during that oak fire, and the evacuation went extremely smooth. And for the amount of fire apparatus and vehicles that CAL FIRE and local fire agencies had going up there, we had no problems. We had no accidents. We had, it went off without a hit. And you have to remember, that's one of the biggest fears that I have, is the Brook Trails area, because it is really a hard place to defend homes. The brush and the trees and the roads. The road systems are not what they should be for a community of that size. And so when it went off without a hitch, it's not anything that I did. It's everything that they did as a community to get that education out beforehand and really practiced it. They took it seriously. They did a great job. And thank goodness, because that was a place that could have been an extreme problem for us.
Oh, and you're also so right about this being very dry here on the coast. I've never seen it this dry either, nor have I ever seen it this smoky in all the years, 30 plus years I've been up here.
I was in Willits at 2 in the afternoon, and I could not walk down the street without a flashlight. The smoke had literally turned 2:30 in the afternoon into midnight.
Mm-hmm. Jeez.
Mary?
Well,
Now, read the letter that you sent to Ms. Juengling today about the robbery and the SWAT team and all the rest of it. I also read the connection to the internet, the article that was written,
Mhm.
I was exceedingly distressed that stuff like this was now happening in our small, very rural and very unpopulated county. And it seems like San Francisco Bay Area is pushing north here with all of their ridiculous crimes. I sent it on to several people, and I hope that that this will not be a pattern that we see in the future, as anywhere on the in this county. No, especially coast, no, especially north or south or east or anything, anywhere. Not 1 inch of county land.
Well, I'm hoping
Thank
for the
you
same.
for letting us know.
Yeah, I'm hoping for the same, but we have been building up to these issues for quite some time. And to be honest with you, my detectives have taken on 1 year of work in the past 12 days. We have had 10 arrests for armed robbery. We've had 2 arrests for kidnap. We've had 1 arrest for murder, 1 arrest for attempted murder. These things that are coming into this county are coming in because of no fault of the supervisors, no fault of myself. They're coming in because the state has a one-size-fits-all approach to things. And, the 22 Northern California counties have 5% of the vote. When they make decisions for the entire state, they don't think about how rural counties will be affected by this. My hope is to work with the supervisors to get after Cal Cannabis and tell them, you guys have started a lot of these problems for us. Now you better come up with the funding so that we can deal with them, or you folks need to come up and deal with them. But, the other thing is I've got detectives right now in San Bernardino County and in Las Vegas following up on those crimes. That is a very, very expensive and bitter pill for me to swallow when I have a total of 4 detectives for the entire county and 100% of them are tied up.
And I sent that on to Jared Huffman so that he will know what's going on here, because I don't know if he was copied. And I have a call into Representative Wood's office to get his email so I can forward it to him. And if you happen to know that email, do forward it. They need to know what is happening in their district, and we are their district, and it is very concerning.
Well, I can tell you
Maybe
Jared Huffman,
maybe they'll realize it.
and Jim Wood and Senator McGuire have been very good partners to Mendocino County. I see those fellas so much, sometimes I wonder, wait, are they state employees, federal employees? No, they work for us. And
Yes.
really, truly, and I'm sure that our supervisors would agree that they have been just an incredible champion for Mendocino County. All 3 of these men have, and they're doing a great job for us. But we need to make sure that our voices are heard, and we need to make sure that we have a unified approach to these problems, that Mendocino County will not put up with this. My concern is that we can't, go ahead, Tom.
It's okay, Sheriff. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to ask a follow-up question on that. Mary mentioned the Bay Area, and as I understood from your post the other day, these crimes, and you just mentioned that detectives are down in Riverside and Las Vegas. These crimes are coming from Southern California, Nevada, maybe down in Mexico. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I remember you mentioning this at a prior meeting, that there were cartel activity coming up. Is this part of that? And I'm wondering if there's State Department of Justice monies that you could use. I also remember you talking in the past about some high-tech solutions you were using with DOJ money. And I'm wondering if it's a way to spot license plates coming up 101 into the county from, San Bernardino, Las Vegas, that sort of thing, and keeping an eye on those folks.
There is a way to do it, but there is a really fine balance. And I don't think any of us wants Big Brother looking over our shoulders. And as the sheriff, I have to think not only about stopping crimes, but my primary job, the first thing that I have to do is to make sure that everybody's rights are intact. I mean, when I'm sworn in and I raise my right hand, it's not to say that I'm going to enforce every law under the sun. I swear that I will basically uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of California. That is my oath and my duty. And so I don't want us to turn into a police state. We have looked at a lot of different options because of funding. I can put surveillance on a home working with the homeowners for $18 a month, and it's worked very, very well. However, I want to make sure that I work with the public and not against them. I want to make sure that I work with everyone in Mendocino County. And, you know, we will begin looking at these options, but I don't want them to be a secret. I want everyone to be able to buy off on them because, I mean, at the end of the day, we're working for you. We're working for every citizen out here. And that's where we've got to have that fine balance. We've got to keep it right on the razor's edge. We provide the best public safety that we possibly can. However, we don't trample rights to do it. And I think it's completely doable.
I completely applaud you for what you just said. I completely agree with you. And I was thinking more in terms of people with warrants out on them and known troublemakers, that kind of thing, gang activity.
Well,
maybe some intelligence could bring that together and pick up those people before they cause trouble here.
Yeah. We've got
also keeping our eyes open as citizens is to something untoward going on in our neighborhood or downtown or wherever, and saying, hey, I saw this happen. You know, I don't know if it's weird or whether it isn't, but maybe you could check in on it. It could be very weird, and it could be just a weird guy doing weird things, and he's completely, you know, not a threat to anybody. But keeping an eye out and saying, wait a minute, might not be a bad idea for us who live here, just residents, to do. Well, we are the eyes and ears of the sheriff, and he only has 40 guys.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we solve so many crimes in small towns. And the reason is there is no anonymity in a small town. People see something that's out of line and they realize, if I have a strange feeling about this, I should say something. Because let's face it, all of us who, you know, make it to the age of 30 years old, we're beginning to take in things and we're beginning to understand what is safe, what is not safe. You know, we begin to have families, we begin to look out for them. And one of the most important things that we can do is make sure that young people, all the way up to folks our age, if you see something, then you say something. If it seems out of place, let us know. It's those little tips that solve crimes constantly.
That's commonly referred to as the neighborhood watch program, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh.
Could you once
if I
more...
see somebody coming down my road and I don't know who they are and they don't look like a neighbor, I say, hey, may I help you find someone? You know, are you looking for a particular address? How may I help you?
Yeah.
And it's not aggressive. It's just, hey, you know, you don't belong here, or I haven't seen you before. And are you looking for a neighbor? I'd be glad to direct you.
Yeah.
I do that for all 10 of my neighbors, and they do it for me.
And if my daughter got lost and ran into somebody like you, I mean, it's also a very kind thing to do. I mean, she doesn't know the South Coast, and if she was down there and turned down the wrong road, it would be very nice for someone to help her also. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You're helping people out, but you're also looking out for your neighborhood.
Yeah, and directing them a quarter of the mile south to the first driveway on the right-hand side, and you'll find them, really helps.
It does. Yes, Robert?
Matt, could you once more mention the name of the new coastal lieutenant starting on the 18th, for my benefit?
His name is Joseph Comer, C-O-M-E-R. He goes by JD.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any other questions of Matt? Don or Melissa?
I have one question. It's probably, well, I was wondering about voting day, November 3rd, and if there was going to be a police presence to ensure that no one was being harassed while trying to vote.
We will
Or is
have,
that,
we will have deputies available at, I believe, all of the posts. The captain's been working on that with Katrina Bartlome. And there are things that, you know, we watch for. There are certain crimes that only occur. You can't campaign, you know, in a polling place. You can't, you know, intimidate, push, anything like that. And so, no, we're very vigilant, and we pay attention to those things.
okay, thank you.
I'm judge at the 2 Gualala precincts. So
Okay.
I'm the head of both of them. And I will tell you, if someone comes in and starts harassing voters or touches a voter and pulls them out of line, I will definitely press charges for assault. I will call the sheriff and I will get them out of there. No one needs to be harassed while they are exercising their franchise, period. Not in my precincts. That's it. So if you receive a call from me, I hope you have a deputy close, because I want that, whomever it is, arrested for battery and assault
We can
on
do
a voter. Good. It's good to know.
Yep, we're lucky to have Mary down here at our precincts.
The judge.
I'm not going to mess with her, I can tell you that much. Don?
I just want to thank you, Sheriff Kendall, for doing the great work that you are doing in the county with the limited resources that you have. It does sound like Jim Wood, Mike McGuire, and Jared Huffman, you know, are doing what they can to provide support for the county, but it still sounds like that's not enough. That more seems to happen, perhaps probably at the state level, to get you more resources. I'm just wondering if there's anything, you know, we can do down here to help.
Well, I've been chatting on the email with Supervisor Williams today regarding just that, and we're basically going to be asking for the support of all of our communities as we push this problem right back to Cal Cannabis and to some people at the state. And in my opinion, and this is my opinion, they started pushing an idea down the road before they, you know, even had wheels on the car. And the issue is that it's only affecting a very small portion of the population, but that very small portion of the population in the state is 100% of us. And so, I mean, if it's only affecting 5%, wow, that's 22 counties. So I think that they cannot have a one-size-fits-all approach to things. That is the one thing that constantly bothers me. In Northern California, we have all of the resources, and Southern California has all of the votes. And that's a battle that we're going to be facing for quite some time. However, with those folks who service at the state level and with our supervisors who service at the county level, we will get the traction to fix this. As long as we have the support of the community behind us, we can move mountains. And honestly, all of our communities have been very supportive about getting rid of the violence and dealing with things, but we can't do it by eviscerating other county departments. We've had growth throughout the entire county. We've had no growth in the sheriff's office. However, the sheriff's office is very expensive. We take up almost 1/3 of the discretionary revenue for the county. And there's a reason why it's expensive. When you pay minimum wage, you get the New Orleans Police Department. And I don't want to see that. If we had that, I definitely wouldn't be working here, because it would not match my morals and my values. And, you know, we've seen horrific things happening throughout the United States with untrained, unprofessional peace officers. We're not going to have that here. And if we have to run short to have good people versus have a whole bunch of people who are not good, I'll run short every day of the week.
I like that philosophy, Sheriff. I'm just wondering, you know, if there is anything we as community members can do to help pressure the state. I mean, it sounds like resources need to come from the state.
Yes.
The state is hard pressed now too with COVID-19. I mean, there just isn't much money around.
The state is spending billions of dollars to buy hotels to house the homeless. I absolutely believe in some of these programs. However, I think that we have gone over the top on some things and have completely forgotten on others that we have victims of crime. We've got to deal with the criminals. The state honestly sold us a bill of goods with a lot of these releases. They're releasing 17,000 inmates saying these are non-violent offenders. That is a play on words. Their last crime was not a crime of violence, and it wasn't a super felony. However, these guys have got rap sheets as long as your arm. They are absolutely violent offenders. It's just the last crime that they got picked up on, as it so happens, was a stolen car. It was a burglary of an outbuilding as opposed to a residence. You know, when you look at their body of work, they are violent criminals. This was simply a play on words, and we are going to be stuck dealing with the ramifications of this for quite some time. These things don't make me happy when they occur. And, you know, I'm a gray-haired old Irish guy, but I have still got a little fight in me. And so we have these conversations, and some of them get heated. The fact of the matter is, they cannot expect to be pushing their problems off on the counties and then throw their hands in the air. And that's exactly what's going on at the state level now. So all that we need is for your support of the supervisors and myself, because all of us together are going to get it fixed.
Well, have you, I'm curious whether you have ever had an opportunity yourself to testify in Sacramento on some of these really important issues that you have a lot of knowledge and awareness about.
Well, I've been waiting for about 5.5 months for a phone call from Governor Newsom, which I quit holding my breath on that a while ago. The fact of the matter is, these things are being crammed down our throats. No one wants to hear any complaints. It's get in line and, you know, just march along with everybody else. And that's not good enough. We're going to keep pushing on it. And these representatives from the state are going to help us. I'm certain that, you know, they have our backs in these things. And with the supervisors and I pushing this in the right direction, we will get some traction. But things are going to have to change because they can't stay the way that they are. We have, I don't know if any of you saw the, one of the robbery suspects that was beaten and trussed up and his hands tied to his feet. There was a photograph put on social media of this. And if we don't deal with the problems, that photograph that these guys chased that guy down and really kicked his butt and zip tied him and tied him up and called the cops, that is the first step down a road that we don't want to go down. That is vigilantism. That is going to cost lives.
Okay, Matt, thank you so much for all your input.
I'm sorry, it's a heavy conversation.
Yeah.
But it's one that we need to have. And so the best thing that I can ask you to do is to really, truly support the supervisor in your district and to support me, because they, you know, we've all got to make some tough choices. And I don't want to see any county department get eviscerated over decisions that were made in a vacuum by the state that affect us. And that's, you know, that's the goal in this. So.
No, we certainly appreciate you, Matt, and our supervisor. That's for sure.
Well, Ted's taking it on right now. And that is a man of action. He truly is. So anyway, does anybody else have anything else for me?
Okay.
Stay safe. Say thanks to all your troops for us.
I will. Thank you. You folks have a good evening.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, it's always good hearing from Matt, I tell you. Next on our agenda is Coastal Development Permit number 2019-0022. Stez, S-T-E-Z, I believe that's how it's pronounced, Stez. That location is on 44035 Iverson Road. And it is a coastal, it's actually an administrative coastal development permit to construct a single
It's
family.
CDP number ending in 22, not 19, 0022.
2019-0022, yeah.
Correct.
Administrative coastal development permit to construct a single family residence with a covered entry and concrete patio, workshop, guest cottage, greenhouse, 8,000 gallon water tank and 120 square foot pump house, including the establishment of gravel driveway, well, septic system, and connections to utilities. This was assigned to Tom and myself at the past month's meeting. I know you had some correspondence with the applicant, Mary, but I believe they said they couldn't be here tonight, right?
No, he's a winemaker, and he also supervises all of the harvest and the grape must process, and he needed to be in his business, not here tonight.
Okay.
He said that it was very straightforward, and you know, he trusted that you could handle it, etc. He would like to have been here, but he can't.
So we won't have the benefit of hearing from the applicant himself tonight, but Tom and I did visit the property, and I don't know, I guess I can take the lead on it, Tom?
Yeah, why don't you, Robert? And I'm going to share my screen. In the meantime, I have some pictures I'll put up as you go through it.
Okay, it's, as I said, an administrative permit. It's located in an exclusionary zone, so it's not as stringent of a coastal development permit application because it's in an exclusionary zone. It's for a phased project, so the applicant would like to build a main 2-bedroom home first. Initially, I believe this was a parcel. I mean, I recall when it was for sale, but it was for a lesser sized septic system at the time. Since the applicant has purchased this property, they have submitted some septic system plans to the county. They were updated, and it's now a 3-bedroom septic system design. So both the septic system permit and the well permit have been submitted to the Mendocino County Environmental Health Department. And it appears when I visited the site that both the septic system and the well have been constructed and installed. So in the application, we also received a copy of the biological scoping survey by Teresa Spade. And I would like to see that all the recommendations of that survey are followed. Otherwise, it looked like a fairly thorough project that was done there. It's maybe about a little under 2 acres. I did notice a lot of the vegetation. I was like that prior to, I think, the ownership of the current applicant, but there have been permits applied for in the past on this project, and there was a approval, but then those permits expired, and now he's the current applicant is looking to vest those permits again with the current project. So my other recommendations, besides following the botanical or the biological survey recommended by Teresa Spade, would be to it looks like there's been a lot of vegetation removed, and so I think erosion control measures should also be adhered to and followed, especially if we get some rain at some point. So Tom, you have anything else to add?
I think you covered it pretty well, Robert. My main concern on this, I like the word straightforward on this project. It is pretty straightforward. Where I've taken this picture is where the house would sit and look out towards that view. My only concern was about possible runoff. It's pretty far down that hill to the creek, but there's always the potential. And there's another, I don't know if it's a creek bed or canyon or something to the right of this picture on the other side that's a little bit closer, but I don't think this property would be a risk to that. This is lower than that. So other than I really don't have any concerns at all about this project moving forward.
Yeah, in this picture that you show, that there at the base of this property, it slopes downward towards that other residence you see there. And so that's why it would be good to really watch out for potential erosion, since it's looking like it's been cleared there pretty well.
Agreed. That's probably the only thing I would mention in a letter. And I'm sure the county will take a close look at that.
Okay, anybody in the audience have any questions, or are other council members on this development permit?
Don has a question.
Looking at this picture, is this the view towards the ocean?
Yes, that's the ocean at the top of the picture there.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That's pretty much southern exposure, Don.
Right. Is there any intention to remove that set of trees there?
I'm not thinking those are on it. The property line could be right just right in front of that, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right, Robert. I think I see, let me zoom in there a little bit. I think I see a fence down here, and there's a fence over here, and I think the property line runs right across there.
Okay, so they could not remove those trees.
Not without consent of the neighbor and probably some permits.
I see, okay.
That's something that we could make a comment on possibly, or I can't say with certainty if that's on the property itself without being there, or if it's just, I know that property ends roughly there, and I'd have to go there and double check again, Don.
Well, wouldn't the CDP mention tree removal if that was part of their plans?
Yeah, but that's been mostly done already in the past, so I
don't recall any mention of removing trees for view, and I don't remember mention of those trees at all.
Nothing additional was being removed to our.
Those really look like they're closer to the other house and beyond the fence lines it may, but I can't be sure.
Yeah. Okay. Do we want to make any other comments? Do we want to make a motion on our advisory recommendation for this coastal development permit?
Why don't you make it, Robert?
Okay, I'll make the advisory recommendation that we approve coastal development permit 2019-0022, the Stez parcel, and I'll entertain a motion or a second on that.
With any condition on the runoff?
Yes, with that those four things that I mentioned, or the two things that I mentioned about adhering to the biological scoping survey by Teresa Spade, and to place erosion control measures on the property. I think there should be some kind of erosion control adhered to by the applicant.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further comment? Okay, so we'll make a voice vote on that. Melissa?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And myself, Robert? That's an aye. Would you want me to write the letter, Tom?
Yeah, I think that'd be better, Robert. Thank you.
You do so much already, so okay. I'll write the letter to the county. Okay. So that was the number one item on our list of CDPs here. The second item on the agenda is Coastal Development Permit 2020-0015. That's the Graffin property that we discussed last month, and we said we'd be doing a follow-up on that. Let me get my notes together on that one. That was a request for a standard coastal development permit for drilling up to 3 test wells on an undeveloped property. Now, I think Mr. Graffin is in the audience. If you want to speak up and have anything to say, you're welcome to, but
yes.
I want to say this much, audience members and council members. It was unfortunate that the review of the CDP wasn't handled a little bit better at our August meeting. Don Hess and Melissa Finley were assigned to revisit this property at our September meeting. Melissa ended up not being able to perform the site visit, so Don and I did so independently. Don will be providing follow-up information, as will I. But in the event of a vote, I will again be recusing myself. So Don, or if the applicant would like to start off, you're welcome to, Craig, if you have anything to say, Craig or Janine, but otherwise we'll go to Don and then I'll say some things and we'll move on.
Yes, actually, it was not 3 wells. It was 1 test well.
We will be drilling one.
We will be drilling 1 test well.
It's just typical to pick 3 spots and figure out the best.
Right.
Okay.
Leaving it up to the experts who would do that work.
Okay, Don?
Yeah, okay, so, Tom, do you want to, can you let me share screen, or do I already have that capability? I guess I do, okay. I took some photos. So,
Would you like me to start, Don? It's up.
oh, let me share. I took some
Okay.
photos. Does everybody see these?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, there.
now you see them, okay.
Don, would you remember that Melissa's on the phone? So if you could describe them a little bit.
Yeah, I will. Okay, so basically I went there looking for these well sites or markers where the well test wells would be drilled. I wasn't aware that you were only going to drill 1, but that's fine. There are 3 that I found. So this is the first one.
Don,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is Janine. It's typical of the pump company and the hydrologist that we hired to do 3 sites, and then they pick the most advantageous one. So
I see.
it wasn't the intention to drill 3 wells. That would be not, appropriate or needed.
Overkill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And in fact, the one that's closest to the road that you're showing here on the screen is probably going to be the best one. It's less depth needed and yields more than enough gallons per minute that are needed.
I see, okay.
It's likely going to be this one. That will be determined.
Pretty close to the road. I think it's about maybe 15 meters, well, less than 20 meters from the road. It is
Yes.
it's a very deep lot. It goes, quite a ways to the bluff's edge.
But we're about 750 feet roughly to the edge.
Yeah. And this particular site that we're looking at, the planner had weighed in. He had seen some, 3 of the areas, and he had just simply asked that this particular one that we're looking at be moved, I think, 15 feet to the west, which we did, away from the road. So, but it's still relatively close.
Okay, so I see. So initially this particular marker was closer to the road.
Mhm.
And it got moved further away from the road. All right.
Well, it's there. As you see it, is when the test drilling was done, that was this spot.
Okay.
That's it.
So do we even need to look at the other potential sites, since this sounds like the one you were going to use?
It's likely, but that has yet to be determined. We have to, circle back with Superior Pump, who is very adept at this, and will come to a final determination. The hydrologist and also the Superior Pump person that we worked with on site, Armando, both honed in on this site as probably the best one. So it's likely going to be this. We just haven't determined that yet because we don't have the permit yet. So it's not finalized.
Well, and if we go through and look at some of the other pictures and get to the other sites. Okay, here I guess is this the second site? Or maybe that's the third one.
It's starting to get
This
to the
is
third
the-
site there.
This is the second site.
Is it? Okay.
Okay, so the second site near that stump,
Yeah,
in sort of a lower area. The property seems to go in from the road, drops down just a little bit from the road bed,
And yeah, initially it does that, but then it levels off.
then it levels off, yeah.
goes out, and then there's a dip before it goes up into
Yes.
this wooded area here.
Correct.
Right.
And that's where this is the third potential site is. This is basically up in this wooded, a higher area.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm not seeing it, but
Oh,
yes,
there it
yes.
is. Yeah.
Getting closer to the bluff's edge up here.
Still
It's
quite a ways
still
away.
A long
Yeah.
way away from it. It's would be on the kind of the northern border of our property.
Right, okay.
Yeah, off to the side there, yeah.
And there's a little, you see this little path or roadway that goes more or less from Highway 1 into the property. Well, it's a little hard to distinguish the path from Highway 1, but once you walk into the property ways, then it's clear where this little
Right.
road is.
Exactly. We've maintained that. Initially, it looked very much like that, but some of the trees died and we took out some limbs that were blocking the way, but we've always maintained that going all the way to the bluff.
Okay. So it appears that, I mean, all we're doing really is approving your drilling of a well here, correct?
It's a test well. We're going to not do the full well, but it'll be capped. So it's a test well.
Right. And once it's done, it sticks up 18 inches? I think there was something in the CDP about maximum height, and you wrote down 1.5 feet, so 18 inches.
Usually when they drill a well on a property, the casing is coming up out of the ground about
Right.
that many inches. Yeah, 1.5 feet maybe.
Yeah.
I think that's what you were referring to in your CDP. Is that correct? Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
that's, yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Well, I'll give some of my findings if you'd like, Don.
Yeah. Go ahead, Robert. Go ahead.
Okay, I live close to this area. I'm pretty familiar with all those properties. That was the old schoolhouse property that got subdivided into 4 parcels. I took a closer look at this because of the miscommunication and the whatever we had this past month, okay? So when you walk these parcels, there's a PG&E overhead easement that intersects at these are approximately 120 wide by 800 deep rectangular oceanfront parcels that are directly adjacent to Highway 1.
Correct.
And the easement for they're called easement and gross. These are PG&E easement at the main lines that go through these properties. It's about 150 foot into the property from the highway. So the way I read the CDP was that there's 3 potential well drilling sites that were identified on the property by a hydrologist. They do soundings on the soil and on the subsurface to find where the best suitable spot is to drill a well even. Correct me if I'm wrong on something, Mr. and Mrs. Graffin, okay?
Yep, that's fine.
But the well site number 1, which is marked clearly on the stake, is located about 25 feet in from the property from Highway 1. Well site 2 was about 180 foot into the property. That is about 30 foot past the PG&E easement. And then the 3rd proposed well site that's marked on a stake was about 330 feet into the property. So then I looked at some of the Mendocino County Environmental Health Department has fairly good records in the recent past. And so they showed, and then also I had access to real estate records. And so I noticed there was a potential septic system design that appears to be most suitable further into the property. And that's kind of close to well site number 3 or proposed well site number 3. So
Yeah, it's on the kind of the opposite side of the property.
opposite side of it though. So that's where it gets into, can one it presents a challenge a little bit because one tries to meet the Mendocino County Environmental Health Department separation standards of 100 foot between a septic system and a water source. So that becomes a little bit tricky. So I can see why your best location would be number 1 or number 2. The Environmental Health Department regulations state that a minimum of 1 gallon per minute from a well site is required in order to be able to build. One could get by with a minimum supply of a half a gallon to a gallon a minute if for an individual residence for building, if it's supplemented with a water storage capacity of about 2,500 gallons. So again, I just wanted to say, Mike, a few things here, that it looks like well site number 1 and well site number 2 is likely the easiest locations to drill for the actual test well with minimal damage to the property. The property slopes kind of to the northwest, and there's only a slight depression in the topography at one location. I did not find the property to be wet or spongy during my visit. And you know, you're not doing an application here for a production well, which would be needed if you were actually building a residence. You're just doing a test well.
Right.
And possibly that's for better marketability of the property. That's your prerogative. So you are getting a coastal development permit to do this. And then I will refrain myself from any further comments, okay? I will recuse myself, but I did want to make sure we really covered it thoroughly for you this time.
Thank you. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Robert.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
It was difficult for us to hear someone who had been there 4 years before. And when there weren't any markers for our property lines, that person obviously went north, and that's when he came into a water situation up to his knees.
Yeah.
Which, we tried to explain in the letter, that there's no way that happened. And the other lady, we're not sure, you know, if she saw our property or another neighboring property. So the point is, we were kind of disturbed by the fact that, you know, what this person was saying was there was you know, a lake there basically that we'd be dealing with, which was not the case. So that kind of ticked us off a bit. So as long as that was straightened out, then you know, I think we're in a fine position here.
Okay.
Admittedly, the property is a bit difficult to find. I mean, I really had to hone in on the map application that I had to determine roughly relative to driveway across the street, you know, where you actually into your lot. But I figured it out, and I had to park my vehicle at that old schoolhouse. There was nowhere else, you know, to park. But,
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
It's doable.
But there are stakes marking the property now, which was not the case before we entered into this proposition of selling the property. So now it's fairly, if you start from the schoolhouse there and walk, you can see the clearly marked stakes, which you can't see to the property directly to the south of us. We're clearly defined there. And now we have the water areas that are clearly defined too. So we think everything is in order.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the four corners are marked as well. We had a
surveyor, yeah.
Someone out there to do that fairly recently, earlier in the year. So, but it's tricky. Yeah, we know it, like, you know, we know every inch of the property, but yeah, it's tricky for sure.
Well, the way this is, since this is a test well, if you then decided to proceed with putting in a functioning well, then you would have to apply for another permit to do that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct, yeah. Now, from an access perspective, historically, I've always noticed how people will, or PG&E, for instance, when they maintain their lines that go through these parcels, they will use the old schoolhouse property to get that 130, 150 feet into the property, and then they'll look at all those properties where the lines cross there. And it would seem to me like that might be an easy way to get in if you have permission from the neighboring property owners to get well drilling equipment in.
Yes, and we have been in contact with him, and he's been very nice about it. He has absolutely no problem. He said to do what you need to do. So we have that in writing.
They're not permanent, they're not tenants there. Their homes are several hours away.
Yeah, he lives out of the area, but we are in contact with him. He lives in the East Bay, so.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Well,
Okay.
bottom line is I don't see any reason to oppose a test well here.
Right, I don't either. Can somebody make a motion to approve or disapprove of this coastal development permit now that it's been reviewed?
I'll move that we approve this this coastal development permit.
I'll second for discussion. And I have a question. Robert, is it your intention to recuse yourself on this one?
Yes, it is, as I said in the beginning.
Section 506 of our bylaws requires you to state the reason for your conflict.
The reason for my conflict is that I am involved with the Graffins on another piece of property.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we formally dot the i's here.
Okay.
Do we want to vote on this? Shall I conduct the vote?
Yeah, please.
Don,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
I will vote aye, and Mr. Juengling is recusing for reasons of the
Yes.
conflict.
Who will write a letter to the county? Don?
By letter, you really just mean filling out that one form on the
Yeah.
CDP?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Okay, so any other comments on this coastal development permit application? Okay. Well, thanks for attending again, Janine and Craig.
Thank you for your help.
Yes, thank you so much.
And
Both of you.
Janine and Craig, I just want to emphasize what Robert said at the start. We're sorry you had to come back for this one. We're sorry we had to go back to it too. But that's a first, and hopefully we won't have another one of those anytime soon.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a kind of a long haul here, and I know you have other things bubbling, so.
Wow.
But just consider it a learning tool.
Yeah.
We're just glad your land wasn't bubbling like we heard the first time. And Don, Don, thank you for taking those pictures. They're really helpful.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. So, folks, let's move on to number 7, council matters. We had the old business item, coastal development permit 2020-0017, Chasey on the agenda. Or Casey, I'm sorry, what did I say, Chasey? Casey. And we did send that letter to the county. I think Don did. I have a copy of it. Mary, do you have a copy of it? Mary, are you still there? We've lost Mary.
Mary got in the waiting room somehow. I'm just letting her back in.
Oh, okay. That's
Give her a
just
second to join.
just an administrative secretarial item. Is I wanted to make sure that she has a copy. Otherwise, I'll get her one. I have the original, or I have a copy that Don dropped off with me.
There, she's back. Mary, we had a question come up while you were gone. Did you hear the Graffin vote?
She's gone. All right.
No, she's here. And she's not muted. She should be back with us in a second here. Mary, can you hear us?
I don't see a red symbol next to her name. Connecting. Oh, there she is.
She may be having some bandwidth problems up on the ridge.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, speaking of bandwidth, earlier this evening, I got cut off for about 5 minutes. I lost my connection.
It's one of the things I fear the most, because if I lose and Don loses, we won't have a meeting. Mary, are you back with us?
Everything went musical notes. Everything went musical notes on me, and all of a sudden it said internet disconnected, and it went black. So I tried to connect several times, and I I'm sorry, I did not hear anything while the two owners were speaking. I heard just at the end, nothing. They were
Okay.
discussing how the
Well, Mary,
road goes up and the,
Mary, for the record, Don
Yes.
moved, I seconded, and it approved 3-0 with 3-0 and 1 with Mr. Juengling recusing himself for reason of conflict.
okay.
Okay. And we were asking if you had
Right,
a
and who
copy
will
of the
write?
letter, referencing the Chasey.
I'm sorry, you're going bouncy. I'm sorry, you're going bouncy.
Do you have a copy of the letter that was sent regarding the Chasey CDP?
Yes, I have
Cover page, I believe. Right, Mary?
Her
no,
connection-
and you're stuttering.
All right,
Well,
Mary's,
it's your- Mary.
Mary's
sorry?
connection is weak, so we'll have to
Hello?
speak slowly.
Maybe, why don't you try turning off video, Mary, so you don't need as much band?
Yeah, who will write? Who will write the letter to the county?
Don will
Who?
be writing it. Don
Hello?
on Graffin.
I already did. I already sent it, and I gave Robert
Hello?
a copy.
Yeah, hi,
I
Mary.
think she's asking on Graffin, Don.
Oh, on Graffin, okay.
Yeah. She's still at that point of the agenda.
Yeah, Robert is stuttering.
I know. I'm not trying to, though.
Robert is stuttering.
Robert, you need to fix that stutter.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Mary? Don?
Are you
Mary?
doing that on purpose or is it just me?
No. Should we send her
Don
an email?
will write. Don will write. I got that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. On Graffin, Mary.
Yes. If I go out again. What?
Mary, if you go out
What
again,
about Mr. Graffin?
Mary, this is Tom. Can you hear me?
Yes.
If you get
Yes.
cut off again, try calling in instead of using your computer, okay?
Good idea.
That's what I was going to do, and then the computer came back on.
Okay. I've turned off your video on this end in case that
That's
helps.
where
but-
I was, and then the computer came back on, so I came back here.
Okay, good. Well, let's hope you stay with us, but if you get cut off again, try calling in. And if I see you in the waiting room, we'll let you in. In any case, we have a recording, so you can pick up from that.
Okay.
Thank you, I will.
Let's go ahead.
Very well, thank you.
Okay, so we've covered 7A. On to
Yes, thank you.
7B, the GCAP, the report from GCAP Ad Hoc Committee. That's Tom and I. And Tom, you'll take the lead on this, right?
What happened with Chasey?
The
What
letter
happened with Chasey?
has been sent.
Oh, the letter has been sent, thank you.
Yes. 7B, report from
Thank
the GCAP Ad Hoc Committee, Tom and myself. Tom, you've got the floor.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce this by saying that we invited both Caltrans engineer Frank Demling and MCOG Executive Director Nafili Barrett, who were here 2 months ago, to return to us tonight to give us an update on the project. You'll remember in August, they said that they were working on details and design for the latest proposal. And Frank said at that time that he expected to meet with his design team in the next few days. We have not seen those designs in the over 2 months. In fact, we have not seen a design since the last town hall. The last design we actually saw was for all 2, and that was in June of last year. Both of them declined to be here tonight. I asked for plan details saying that I suspected they were ready, and Frank assured me that he'd work with Nafili to get us a printed presentation so that I could share it with the council. However, we have not received such a presentation. So I thought I'd take tonight to spend some time on what we know about the project, because we know a lot more information than we generally share with the county, with the council, just like you all know more about the things you look into. So I'm going to share my screen and show you some things. And I wanted to start tonight with the survey that Ted performed recently, asking people about Streetscape and about GMAC. Some of the questions and some of the responses in here caught my eye, and they probably caught yours as well. This was only a small sample, only about 65 people were surveyed, and that's extremely small. Most of those people were from Gualala, about 68%, 16% from the South Coast, our neighbors, and 9% from our neighbors in Sonoma County. Now, the interesting thing to me was Q3 was, are you informed about the Downtown Streetscape Enhancement Project? And I was very happy to see 89% say, yes, they are informed, because we've been trying to inform people. The very next question is, do you support the Gualala Downtown Streetscape Plan as presently specified? And the answers are only, oh, well, 60%. 61% says, I don't know what is presently specified. And 26% said no, and only 12.5%, 1 in 8 voters said yes. So those were interesting numbers to me. And I thought those and some of the letters in the ICO and some of the comments that appeared in the survey that Ted took about GMAC and the Streetscape Project. And there's, looks like 57 comments. And I read them all at least twice. There's some very good comments in there, and I really appreciate them. I really appreciate all of the comments. But I wanted to go over some of the points of confusion that I've seen come up recently, and maybe help bring people into a higher state of awareness of what's going on. So I have a few slides to share. First, I keep hearing that this is GMAC's project. This is not a GMAC project. This is an MCOG and Caltrans project. And GMAC is advising them based on the requirements of our town plan and on public input from all sides that we hear. What are the current plan details? We have no updated plan issued by Caltrans after the town hall, just a few slides via email. And we've asked for that in material several times. I'll show you one of those slides in a few minutes. GMAC doesn't listen. Actually, we do. We voted 4 times in response to input from residents, from the surf market and the surf center, and from Caltrans. All those positions, by the way, were more favorable to the surf market and the surf center than the alternatives that we were considering. We ignored the town hall and came up with our own proposal. This is false. And I blame myself in part for this, because what we did in our motion that night was to include 2 sentences in one motion, but they are 2 separate thoughts, and I want to clarify that for the record. It's false. We voted 5-0 without any conditions 2 days after the town hall to support the tentative streetscape design presented by Caltrans at its October 1 public meeting. By the way, happy anniversary. We said that design would fulfill the Gualala Town Plan's goals of adding sidewalks and bike lanes and still allow the flexibility to meet any future needs related to operational efficiency. That was a reference to the turn lane, to downtown development, which is a reference to the building of the parking lot at the surf center, and to public safety, which was a reference to the many comments we heard about people need to slow down and we need safer turning situations, things like that. We had a 24-minute discussion that night about this motion. And part of it was on the second sentence, which has caused some confusion. We said separately in a separate sentence, the council takes this action with the understanding from Caltrans, not from the town hall, from Caltrans, that individual property owners may opt out from allowing on-highway parking in front of their property in the future. That understanding, as I explained in the last meeting, I think, was based on 5 phone calls with Frank Demling, with numerous conversations during the working committee meetings the 2 weeks before the town hall, and with actual discussions during the town hall. In our 24-minute discussion that night, George Provencher, Mr. Bauer, and a couple of members of the council all remembered this coming up at the town hall, although nobody remembered it being called to opt out. And, you know, we just made up those terms for the sentence, but it was basically the same principle that owners would have a choice. Anyway, I wanted to clear that up. It is false. We did support that town hall finding, and anybody who says otherwise is wrong. Our current position, there are a lot of comments about how we've changed our position. So I wanted to explain that in August, Caltrans told us they had problems with the width with the town hall plan, which was 64 feet. Now we knew there would be problems because that had been narrowed from 64 feet to 60 feet years earlier when we found out 64 feet wouldn't work. So it turned out the 64-foot plan from the town hall didn't work. It resulted in large retaining walls, which I'll again show you in a minute. And Caltrans asked for input on what to do about it. And MCOG was at that meeting too, and they asked for that. And I think they'd like to have it from the general public as well as GMAC. So we took a vote that night, and we advised it to return to a 3-lane approach with guaranteed interim parking for the surf at the surf center. So that's our current position. And it's very much like the position we had before the town hall, which also include interim parking for the surf and a 3-lane approach. This solution would be consistent with our town plan, and if it was approved, we could go ahead and build that right away. Many people ask if we have a personal agenda or suggested that I do or Robert does or other people do. We have none. Our decisions have been based following the town plan, which is part of the county code and guides all planning decisions here in Gualala. It's been law since 2002. It's certified by the California Coastal Commission. And I want to take a second to explain what that means. When you violate the town plan, or if you want to go outside and amend it, you're starting a 10-year process that I'll talk about in another minute. So when we follow the town plan, if we had approved alternative 2 last year, we could have gone ahead into the next phase of this project and start building it as soon as possible. I think Melissa got locked out. But because we are now considering things that are outside the town plan, it's flirting with the notion that we may need to amend the town plan, which is a 10-year process and would delay the process for a decade, or delay the project for a decade. And finally, this comes up all the time, that GMAC holds secret meetings. Listen, it's hard enough to get us to show up on the first Thursday of each month. We don't hold secret meetings. All our meetings are posted publicly. They're open to the public with posted agendas. And if anybody on the council doesn't think so, you can say so. And if anybody in the public knows of one of those meetings, please alert the chair, because we don't want to do that. Okay, here's the slide I promised. On the top of this is an engineer's diagram. This is the closest thing we've seen to a plan from Caltrans to explain what came out of the town hall last year. And what you're looking at in that top diagram is a series of lanes. Just forget all the initials and just look at these numbers on that horizontal line. And you'll see things like 12 feet, that's a traffic lane. 5 feet, that's a bicycle lane with a 1-foot buffer. 9 feet is a parking lane. And the 6 1/8 feet is the sidewalk. You'll notice there's no landscaping in here. And you'll also notice this center part that says 0 to 12 feet variable. That is a left turn pocket taper. This is the intersection at Ocean Drive, I believe, although it's not marked, but I believe that's where it is. Let me go through that. The total width of this road at this point is between 64, which is the main project, and 76 feet. 76 feet. The current 2 lanes of the highway are 22 feet. So this would be over 3 times as wide as the current highway at Ocean Drive. It would result, and you'll see this over here, a 5-foot retaining wall on the east side of the roadway. And on the west side of the roadway, there'd be a 3-foot retaining wall right there. Actually, there is a 3-foot retaining wall there. If you go in front of Trinks and go over to the end of the parking lot, you'll see it. This includes 2 parking lanes, 1 on each side, 2 traffic lanes, and the variable turn lane. There is no landscaping in this. This would be up to 76 feet wide of nothing but asphalt and concrete side to side. On the bottom here is something more like what we have voted to recommend to Caltrans. And it goes back to alternative 2, or something like alternative 2. This is not alternative 2. The alternative 2 had a turn lane in the center. And what we voted for was a 3-lane concept that could allow parking. So here you see a sidewalk of the same width of up here, a green strip on each side of the street. The bike lane here is inside a parking lane. That adds an extra buffer of safety for the cyclist and allows the car to get out without crossing the cyclist path. And it also keeps the landscaping and curb keep it separated from the sidewalk, so there's no conflict there. This is common in many cities now, so this is just the way I drew up this graphic. So there's bike lanes, there's sidewalks, there's landscaping, there's 3 traffic lanes, and the total is only 58 feet. 58 feet. That's 6 to 18 feet narrower, and it's town plan compliant. Up at the top of Ocean, if need be, to avoid those retaining walls, you could narrow this further by eliminating one of the landscaping strips, because that's already a green area. There's a tree right next to the highway right there. On the other side, there's probably not, so you probably want to keep it there. But these are only 2 to 3 feet wide anyway. You can have all the other features, and you could also drop one of these lanes. You don't have to have the parking lane up there. The highway could be just 2 feet. And you could narrow this down to, 48 feet, maybe 45 feet, instead of 64 to 76. So, I'm trying to give an idea here of the range of choices that we have before us going into the town hall, which is coming up later this month. And the council has recommended that Caltrans consider something more like this than like this. This parking lane, by the way, could be used as a turn lane in various parts of town. So you could have a car coming down there for traffic, and you could have a turn lane in the middle where you need a turn lane, like turning into the Sunstrom Mall or the Surf Center.
Right.
Okay. The long and short paths to completing Streetscape. How long is this going to take? Barry Weiss was at the meeting where we took our first vote on the Streetscape, and he said, "That's it? You voted, it's done?" And I said, Barry, there are always more meetings, there are always more votes. And here's the proof of that pudding. Streetscape belongs to as I said, to MCOG, the Mendocino Council of Governments, which represents projects in the unincorporated parts of the county. MCOG hired Caltrans to manage this building process. This is an unusual arrangement. GMAC just advises both of them and the county supervisors, the council itself of MCOG, the planning department, and in time we will advise the Coastal Commission when that comes up. In January of 18, Caltrans held a town hall in Gualala. I know people who've been there. Robert was there, and I've heard that there were estimates of about 40 to 50 people there. And they approved the streetscape plan that was contained in the 2002 Gualala Town Plan as legally certified in the local coastal plan. In June 2019, so a year and several months later, Caltrans finally published an initial study for review by the GMAC community with Alt 1 and Alt 2. These were agreed with the town plan, and if they had been approved, we could have gone right into funding and construction. There was, however, a protest in the summer of 2019, and the community grew divided. We're all familiar with this now. GMAC proposed a compromise within the town plan, very much like the recommendation that we have pending right now. But Caltrans called for a town hall. And then at the town hall and in discussions leading up to it, strayed from the requirements of the town plan. By straying from the requirements of the town plan, again, it's risky territory because it could result in an amendment to the town plan, and that amendment could take up to a decade to complete. On October 1, a year ago tonight, we had that second town hall, and it led to the 64-foot 4-lane concept that I just showed you. GMAC endorsed the plan on October 3rd anyway, under the threat that Gualala would lose funding for the project for the foreseeable future. On August 6th of this year, MCOG and Caltrans came to us formally to report that huge retaining walls would be required in all three. And they thought the changes were, that it was inappropriate, it was too urban, and it would require changes in all three. All three being the town hall plan, as they were calling it that night. And they said they needed more community input. Immediately after that, GMAC presented its findings on all three, and they were not complimentary. We basically pointed out the discrepancies with the town plan, problems with the process, problems with the town hall, and basically went back to recommending 3 lanes, as I showed you on the prior slide. Now here we are, October 1, 2020, a long way from January 2018, and Caltrans is planning a 3rd town hall, the 3rd one in 3 years, to consider all 3 alternatives. But the big question is, will the alternatives follow the Gualala town plan? During our August 6th meeting, Nafili Barrett, the executive director of MCOG, said repeatedly that the new proposal would use a lot less pavement. That seems like a promising phrase to me, and I was glad to hear it. And they also talked about reflecting the natural surroundings, so I was hoping that meant landscaping might creep back into the project. If it doesn't, or if they propose taking out other things like a sidewalk or a bike lane that are required by the town plan, they could trigger that longer, decade-long review I'm talking about. And I should say that we kind of had to work this out on our own. I asked Frank for directions on this, and he gave me this. This is a 9-year-old document that Caltrans published called How Caltrans Builds Projects. And somewhere in here, I kind of just figured out where we were. It has a step-by-step guide for, I think it's 30 pages or 25 pages, 25. I kind of figured out where we are. So this is my best guesstimate of where we are in this process. In spring of 2021, I'm kind of expecting Caltrans to issue a 2nd study to follow up on the initial study. Right now, we're still operating under that initial study that had Alt 1 and Alt 2. We haven't seen Alt 3. And I think to present Alt 3, they're going to need to issue another report in maybe in the spring. It'll probably take that long. And then we will be back to the June 19 level of having public hearings and getting public reactions and having GMAC vote again on this and all that. If there's another protest, it could lead to further delays. If it doesn't agree with the town plan, it could lead to a major coastal review. So the 2 future paths I've noted here are, if the 2021 study supports the town plan and we all approve it, then the project can go forward. If the 2021 study doesn't support the town plan, the county will likely need to amend the town plan. There'll be many, many more hearings with county planners, the Planning Commission, the Board of Supervisors, and the Coastal Commission, each holding their own sets of hearings. And I say sets, plural. And in the end, the California Coastal Commission may approve, disapprove, or add new requirements. If the CCC disapproves, Streetscape will return to the January 18 planning status with a 4th town hall. Again, this is my best estimate of what's going on. We have no official comment, and we're a little bit lost in the weeds bureaucratically here. We may hear from Caltrans that I'm wrong about this, and I'm willing to hear that, because this is kind of a sad picture that we're in right now. Now, the good news is, yeah.
we're getting close to the 15 minutes on this presentation.
Okay,
so-
let me run through the next couple of slides. The current differences between the two sides are fairly minor. We support the compromise to get the project completed without waiting the 10 years. So this is the last slide. It's kind of what's happened with Streetscape since July, and I've gone through a lot of this. July 24th, Caltrans said there were problems with retaining walls. August 6th, they came and talked to us and we voted. August 16th, Caltrans, MCOG, Robert and I discussed on Zoom plans for the town hall and found new problems of concern. So on August 21st, he and I sent a letter of concern to Caltrans and MCOG about notifications, security plans, etc. 27th, Caltrans emailed notification was under review and delayed the meeting to October 28th. September 3rd, we reported that to the council. September 16th, Caltrans said that they had changed the notification to tentatively 100 feet of the highway and other interested parties. And the date of the hearing may slip until November. Speaking strictly for myself, I told them it's a considerable improvement, but I reiterated our other concerns. September 22nd, we invited Caltrans and MCOG to return. We asked for the written report. We got no report. So October 1, the discussion tonight is that there's little disagreement at this point. I'm hearing somebody talk in the background there.
That's
Somebody's-
Kevin Evans.
Kevin, you want to turn that down, please? So we could talk about the 2-lane versus 3-lane. We've already voted on that. And MCOG said August 6th, a revised project would have much less pavement. We still have no details. The new concern is the potential delay. And what I'd like to get from the council tonight is what next steps do you think we should take? I'm inclined to ask MCOG and Caltrans if they plan to seek an amendment and possibly conduct a GMAC forum for additional public outreach to help solve that knowledge gap. One of our functions as a council is to help inform, is to serve as a forum for the public. So I'm sorry to take so long with that, but it's very detailed. And as you can see, there's a lot to share. So let's just go back to video here. And anybody have any comments? Robert, I turn the chair back to you there.
Yeah, it was a very good presentation there. I think that we provided the council with, we need to continue to ask Caltrans and MCOG about the public outreach. How many people, that's what I keep seeing, is that we want to make sure as many people as possible know about this project and the next series of alternatives that's going to be presented to us, whether it's end of October now or into November. We got to get it right. So that's my main concern, and whatever the other council members' concerns are also, and the rest of the community and our audience. Anybody else have some comments on the presentation?
Well, it was a very thorough presentation, Tom. Appreciate that. Yeah, I do agree that, who gets invited to this upcoming town hall is it's important that they get it right and include people particularly, on the Mendocino County side, everybody that has a real interest and commitment, to Gualala be included, as well as, Sea Ranch people, that it not be dominated by one side or the other in particular. So I think that's important going forward.
Yeah, let me clarify that, Don. Caltrans has withdrawn the plan to send postcard notifications to people within a mile of the highway in Gualala and to all the lots on Sea Ranch. They said, after we asked them to review that, they did kill that. So that tentative plan was shot down as a result of the letter that Robert and I wrote, I believe, and the public outcry that followed that and the article that I put in the Lighthouse Peddler. So that now they're down, to reiterate, they're only going to notify people only going to send postcards, I think, to people within 100 feet of the highway. And everybody else will have to learn about it on their own, which I think means that one of our responsibilities is to help notify the public about this and serve as a forum for the ideas.
Okay, that's fine. But, you know, then I don't know what to say further on this issue. I mean, this thing's dragged out for so long. It's incredible. I'm a bit disappointed that Caltrans hasn't come up a little quicker with some alternative plans that we could take a serious look at. I'm sure they're, you know, super busy with a lot of other projects, and maybe this is a really small project for them. I don't know. I have no idea. But in any event, I'd really like to see this thing move forward sooner rather than later. That's all.
Okay. Melissa, do you have any input? Is Melissa still there?
She is.
We're only at 7:30.
She's here. I guess she has no input. She's muted. And perhaps somebody in the audience, in the public, wants to comment.
Anybody out in the audience have a comment? How many we have?
We have 3.
I do have a comment. Can you hear me? This is Mary.
Hey, Mary.
Yes, Mary.
I'm very disappointed in Caltrans only notifying people within 100 feet of the highway. I think that's ridiculous. I think their mailing was ridiculous beforehand, leaving out all the people in Gualala, but now they're leaving out everybody and expect people to hear about it word of mouth. And I think that is very, very sad. Very sad on their part. And very discriminatory about from whom they want to hear commentary.
Thank you, Mary.
Excuse me, may I just add a comment?
Would you identify yourself, please?
Yes, this is Stephanie Dahl, and I'm actually tuned in tonight because I'm interested in the water report. But on this situation, Caltrans and MCOG are required to provide public notice, and the best way, it's not foolproof, but those who are interested should contact by email should be fine, both MCOG and Caltrans, and let them know that those individuals want to receive notice of any town halls or the release of any documents. That's the standard way of notifying public agencies. Caltrans is required to provide adequate public notice by virtue of the funding it receives, some of which is federal funding, and they do have noticing requirements of which the public can take advantage. And MCOG as a public agency also, if it is involved, and apparently it is involved at least through its funding. So people should be able to receive notice.
Excuse me, may I interrupt you briefly, Stephanie, and thank you for speaking up. I neglected to just go into this much detail, but Caltrans will affirmatively notify people within 100 feet of the highway. If people reach out to Caltrans, they will and express themselves as an interested party, they will also receive notification. And Caltrans does plan to put up posters in public locations around town, kind of like what we do with our agendas. So there will be some public notification. They will be going to the radio station, putting up postings, and
in the newspaper, I believe.
The newspaper, probably.
Yeah.
So there is some outreach, but there's, as far as affirmative reaching out to people, the only people they're going to contact are the people within 100 feet of the highway. At least that's the tentative plan that Frank told me in an email as of 2 weeks ago. And Stephanie, I remember you were a planner who spoke to us about a project recently.
I did.
would you remind us, the rest of the council, who you are?
My firm, Dahl & Associates, is a land use consulting firm. We handle clients, public agencies, and private property owners, basically from Humboldt County to the Mexican border. And we have been involved in a number of Caltrans-related activities in Mendocino County. So we are familiar with the need to keep after them on the one hand, but on the other hand, certainly GMAC's advising the public and keeping people aware is going to be an additional incentive to Caltrans to make sure that the public is aware of what's going on. And they have sent actual mailed notices to people, to interested parties in other locations. So I wouldn't rule that out altogether. I think there's a possibility that they may do that.
Did you hear my description of the process and where I believe we are in it right now? Do you have any light to shed on that?
Well, the one thing I would say is that there will need to be a coastal permit, and that hearing process needs to be added to the equation. The county should be the lead agency on the coastal permit. The county, if the county approves, it can still be appealed to the Coastal Commission. If the county disapproves for whatever reason, that also could be appealed to the Coastal Commission because of the nature of the project. So it's not as though it's a clean slate, or the town hall meetings are guidance to the actual decision makers. In this case, the town hall meetings don't decide anything. I think that the survey that Supervisor Williams conducted is probably going to have more impact than a town hall meeting. And presumably, he's going to continue querying the community, not just South County, but the broader community that uses the highway through Gualala, or people who shop there. So you mentioned the survey at the beginning of your presentation, but I think that the message should have gotten through to the supervisor that people care and people want to be informed. And in my distant observation of him, he's been very responsive and concerned about his constituents. So I think that's a good thing.
Would you think it would be helpful for the council to raise the question about the intent of MCOG and on seeking an amendment to the plan?
Until they've come forward with revised designs, probably not. At some point when the designs come forward and there's concern about whether they comply with the plans or not, I think that's an appropriate time, not just for MCOG, but for members of the community to raise the question of what that's going to mean in terms of cost, what it means in terms of delay, and frankly, what the likelihood of success in getting a plan through the county and then through the Coastal Commission would be. I think that perhaps proactively, what Mr. Juengling has indicated he plans to do would be helpful. That is, in bringing in county planning staff, Coastal Commission staff, and the actual planners from MCOG to make sure that what they come forward with is reflective of what is possible under the law in which we're dealing, rather than necessarily, no offense to the community sentiment frequently does not reach the point of being approvable. And in this case, that's, I think, going to be very important in getting something done.
That's very helpful.
Yes, Stephanie, I think that's a very important point you made, especially about somehow, some way getting the Coastal Commission involved as early as possible in the process. so that, you know, all this planning, all this effort and all this community input, you know, comes up with some plan that in the end does not pass muster with the Coastal Commission, and then it's all shot down and you're back to square one. So I think that's a very important point you made.
Remember, county staff, that's the nice thing about having certified plans. County staff is on the front line. So county staff will have the first review. And the county has a big role in interpreting its own local coastal programs. So that guidance could be very helpful. You know, I know that the North Coast District Director, Bob Merrill, is aware of the issue. I think that as with most coastal officials, once there's a certified local coastal program in place, even if it's an old one, it's easier to process proposals that are consistent with decisions the commission has already made. Because if they start looking at changes to that, then the whole process is opened up. So it's not just limited to the thing that people want to change. You know, from the community side, there may be other changes that are wanted. From the commission side, there are changes that are wanted. And those may be necessary. I mean, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. Please don't get me wrong. But it takes time, and there is very little control from the community side over what finally happens in the process.
I think you just made a very strong point and argument in favor of sticking with the town plan and coming up with any design for this streetscape. Thank you.
Stephanie, did I understand you to say that I forget how you put it, was it the commission or that Mr. Merrill was aware of the Gualala situation?
Yes.
How do you know that?
I spoke to him at the end of last week on a number of other items that I have unfortunately pending before the commission that have been there for some while. And in passing, because part of it dealt with South County, the subject came up. And he is aware, he does want commission staff to be involved. I don't believe he had discussed it with his planners, but the Coastal Commission staff meets with Caltrans and particularly Mr. Demling on a fairly regular basis. So my guess would be that Mr. Demling mentioned it. By the way, Mr. Demling is a licensed surveyor, but he is not an engineer.
Thank you. I didn't know that.
Okay, how much more do we have on this item on the agenda? That was all good information from Stephanie.
It was really good information. Thank you, Stephanie, for volunteering that. I appreciate your expertise. And can I ask you one other question if you could turn back on?
Yes.
I kind of ballpark that 10-year turnaround on a coastal commission because I've heard that a few times. Does that sound like the right ballpark to you?
I will start off by saying my partner and I hold the record for the shortest amount of time for getting an entire LCP, land use plan, zoning ordinance, and subdivision ordinance through the commission. That was many years ago, and nothing like that happens any longer. The last time the Mendocino Town Plan was amended, it took arguably 20 years. Most of that time was at the county. The Coastal Commission took a couple of years to deal with it once it got to them, and they undid a number of things that were very important to the Mendocino community and to the Board of Supervisors, but commission staff and, you know, we were of the opinion that they were consistent with the Coastal Act as well. But they did not fit into an overall statewide strategy. And so, you know, ultimately the plan as revised by the commission was approved and the county accepted those changes. So it can be done if it's focused and if commission staff is on board, if the county staff is on board and the commission staff is on board. a year to 2 years for something non-controversial is doable. You know, where there is a controversy or there are conflicts with a decision the commission has previously made, it may take longer. So, you know, you're looking at 2 years would be not fast track, but for something simple, doable. It won't happen in 2 years if there is a controversy. And in this case, if it's changes to something that was hammered out with compromises already made, it would probably take much longer.
So when you say simple changes, our town plan specifically prohibits parking along the highway, and this current proposal includes 2 lanes of parking along the highway, and possibly sacrificing other town plan elements to accommodate that. Does that sound simple or does that sound complicated?
Yeah. The reason it's complicated is because Caltrans and the Coastal Commission have a problem throughout the state. Pacific Coast Highway through Malibu, for example, is an ongoing controversy between the city of Malibu, the Coastal Commission, and Caltrans over where parking can and can't occur. It's a safety issue, and it's a public access issue, obviously through the town. You don't have a question of lots of people parking on the highway to make their way to the beach, on the one hand. But on the other hand, the Coastal Commission will be looking at that kind of question in a more global way. You know, you can bring it back to the specifics of Gualala, but you know, it's like desalination plants. You know, nobody proposes one of those without getting caught up in the issues that surround all of the others that are out there. So I would not think it would be as simple.
Thank you very much. You know, your expertise as a professional planner are really showing here, and we realize you normally get hundreds of dollars an hour for this kind of thing. So we really appreciate this as a public comment for our poor little council here.
Well, you know, the council plays a really important role for the county, and I think that Supervisor Williams is cognizant of that, and you know, the more public input there is, the better I think that the end result ends up being whatever it is. So with that, I'll be quiet.
Thank you very much for your input. Thanks for joining us at our council meeting tonight, and hope you join again. And let's see if we can get down to some other items here, okay? Tom, are we ready to move on with?
Yeah, if nobody else has any other comments, let's move on.
Okay. So we have 7C, the report from the PSPS and Emergency Preparations Committee. That seems to be just on at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to report on this. You know, our document is on the website, and I have no idea who's downloading it, who's printing it, who's using it. Other than Action Network apparently is providing that in a packet of other materials they're providing certain people.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah. I am wondering, however.
I can't hear Mr. Hess.
Turn up your volume, Mary. I can hear him.
I have my volume up totally to the top.
Okay.
Well, I'll talk a little louder if that helps.
Thank you.
What I'm wondering is whether or not this type of information, this emergency preparedness information, shouldn't be provided to the hotel and motel owners in our area, so that maybe a copy of the document could be in each room or something. I don't know. You know, one of the issues, obviously, in any type of emergency situation, whatever it may be, the fact of the matter is there are often people here from out of town, and they're not necessarily familiar with what could be done, what should be done in an emergency situation. So, you know, what role do we have, if any, to play in that?
Well, like with regards to fire, like Matt Kendall was bringing up tonight in his report, Don, I don't recall, was there something in the emergency preparedness pamphlet there that's online about fire too, or it's just the emergency routes are shown, correct?
Well, fire is obviously one of the emergency situations that is discussed.
It was, okay, I didn't recall.
So, and yeah, the evacuation route map is there, the contacts, the radio stations.
I think that,
you know, right there, I mean, if you think about it, let's say you're coming up from the Bay Area or from somewhere else in California, you're not familiar with the radio stations up here. And, you know, the best place to get information is from local radio in this kind of an event, I would think.
I agree with you. I think that needs to be in all the hotels and all the bed and breakfasts and whoever is involved with lodging, the rental homes and everything. It should be available for them, yeah. And they just need to download it, I guess. We need to get maybe the word out on that or something, even more.
The flyer could be printed and then taken to the office of all of these rental agencies, bed and breakfast, hotel, motel throughout the area. Then they can decide as to whether they want to print it or not, rather than
yeah, good idea, Mary.
doing it and taking it as part of this committee's duties.
A simple flyer. Tom.
Yeah. Take out a flyer, give the web address where it's located, tell them to feel free to download it and print as many copies as they want to put into their rooms and into their rentals and bed and breakfast or whatever they're renting at camping sites. And, you know, have it available. I think it's a great idea, but GMAC, PSPS committee should not have to print these and then distribute them.
Right.
I would leave it up to the hotel, motel, whomever owners to do that if they wanted it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they might wind up in the round file.
Yeah, I like that idea. And to make it simpler, Don, you have a PDF of this thing. Maybe you could just email it out to the hotel owners. I could help you with some of those addresses, and just make it available to them in the campgrounds, and just recommend that they print it out or send the link, send the PDF to their guests before they arrive when they have reservations, and just say, we want you to be safe when you're here. Here's a guide that you can read before you arrive. I think most people won't even print it out, but read it online.
It's on GMAC's website. Just give the website information. Let them go online to the website and get it.
You know, I tried to put up a link to our website to it, and it came to the main page of the website instead of going to the report. So that may be an issue. Yeah. I don't know why. I think it was the PDF.
Oh, okay.
I'll test that, but we should be able to, just provide a URL, which goes right to the document. But yeah, it needs to be up to the hotel, motel, campsite owners to distribute this information. We're not getting involved in that.
No. But just getting the word out with a simple flyer, like Mary says, or something. Yeah.
You or Robert, you have email addresses for the owners of these?
Yeah, I have some of those. I'll send them to you.
And I can certainly send out an email, you know, to all these people with a link to the document.
Will do.
Okay.
You know, it might also be advantageous to other MACs throughout this county and Sonoma County to be emailed regarding, this is what we did for disaster in our area. You can use this as a format for disaster preparedness in your area.
Yeah, actually, I mentioned this. I'll tell you about this in a couple of minutes, but I mentioned this during our call to other MACs through Move 2030 last week. And I can send that link. I'm going to have another meeting the last Thursday of this month. But I could send it to them in advance of that so they can have a look at it.
Yeah,
okay.
It would be a really good idea for other MACs and maybe even small cities, you know, to have it and to make up something for their area. Because right now, you know, we've had the hardest fire season ever in the history of this state. And we just started the fire season.
Right.
God help us when we reach December.
Well, we can make another push locally too and get it up on Facebook to make sure everybody around here knows about this now that fire is on their mind a little bit more.
Yes.
But yeah, I want to say that I am not interested in taking on any responsibility to communicate this thing throughout the county or whatever. That is not our role here. You know, we're a little MAC for Gualala, and that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's it. I mean,
I'll take on that responsibility because people are asking about things like that from other MACs.
easy to do. You want to do it, that's fine. But
Okay.
I really think that's our
Just
necessary
Simple
role.
email notification that we forward to different agencies, to different people, and they take it from there, I think is what Don's referring to. Yeah, I mean, we can't be distributing this, no.
No, not,
Okay.
no. Okay.
No.
Go ahead.
But we'll do whatever we can to get the word out on that. We have a link to the document. I mean, you guys put so much effort and work into that. Okay, we gotta try to move on here. We don't want to lose anybody here. So we're down to number D, or 7D, the Housing and Economic Development Committee. That's just Tom at the moment.
Okay. Going to share a screen again.
And thank you, Don, for that.
Put your sunglasses on, white screen.
No.
So we had no public meetings again during this September. I'm still waiting for more council members to be appointed, and we'll consider adding another member to the committee. But I've had many Zoom sessions and phone calls related to Move 2030. I was talking to Robert about this early in the day, and I've put in something like 100 hours over the last month, or 80 hours in the last month, just on HED stuff. One of the projects is an incubator. I'm leading a team of 6 people from across the county to help propose an incubator program to help people who have little training, little business training, actually start a business. The idea is to train up to 10 people per quarter. These are people who may want to start a landscaping business or a food truck or something like that, or something more sophisticated, but really don't know how to get from their aspirations to reality. We would then transition those folks to West BDC after a period of 3 months. And we could also get this thing up running in 3 months. So the idea, I'm co-writing the business plan on this, and we're going to submit it to the directors of Move 2030 in mid-October. This is kind of up and beyond what I'm doing for GMAC, but it's something that Move 2030 needs a countywide. This all is a step up from some of the things I've been doing locally here in Gualala. And another of those things is I came up with an idea of attracting workers from the Bay Area to move up to the area. They are doing this on their own now. House prices in the Gualala area, as Robert can attest, are booming. Vacancies are low. I don't think there's a house for sale around here for less than $500,000 now. Is that right, Robert?
That's pretty much correct.
Humboldt, Del Norte, and Mendocino counties heard about this. They like this. Una Workbauer likes this. And we created a group to talk about this, of which I'm a member of this group. And now it's turned from just randomly having people move in here who may not like to live in a place like Gualala or Eureka or wherever, to trying to help guide people who are interested in moving to the right kind of town for them. So somebody who wants to be 2 hours from the local chain stores, hey, come to Gualala. Somebody who doesn't mind being away from a Starbucks, hey, come to Gualala. But somebody looking for the best public school system for their kids will probably end up in another area, or somebody who needs to go to the mall every weekend will probably end up in another area. So that's the idea. They're working on that. And just want to let you know that I'm still working on that as well. Finally, there's a group called the Big Mac. I referred to this a minute ago. It's a countywide business development discussion with about a dozen economic focused MAC members from around the county and other officials from the county. Brent Schultz, for example, was on the last call, and a couple of supervisors on how to spur economic growth in Mendocino County, particularly in the idea of resiliency. There's also been some city people hanging out there. It's on the 4 Thursdays. We've only had one meeting, and I can share the link with anybody who's interested. Let me know. Other MAC members are welcome to come to that meeting. On a related note, I heard from one of our ISP providers recently that there's a job training, that they have no electricians, that they're desperate to get electricians. They're willing to train them. It's very hard to do it, and they can install a lot more broadband if they had more electricians to help them. You know, basically, you know, they need trained people, and those jobs pay 40, 50 more dollars an hour. So I inquired through Big Mac and found out there's a job training program that may be able to help train electricians, and I'm pursuing more info on that. So that's an example of the kinds of things that we hear through that. And the emergency plan was another thing. So that's the HED report for tonight. Thanks.
Hey, thank you, Tom, and thank you, Don, for the last report also. So we're back to Don now. 7E, the report on the electric vehicle charging station. You have anything on that, Don?
Not a whole lot. I think at the last meeting I mentioned this FireWire opportunity, but as I recall, the guy from FireWire mentioned his whole plan was dependent on some PG&E monies that fund this kind of charging station setup. And I read recently, just a week or so ago, I think, where all these funds had already been used up. And in the meantime, I haven't heard back from him. He was supposedly going to send me a sort of a document, a proposal for how this would potentially work out, provided we could find a landowner that would provide the land. So really has not been any movement on this issue. It's unfortunate because, I mean, look where we're heading. Newsom has announced that by 2035 he's going to ban the sale. He wants to ban the sale of gasoline, fossil fuel burning vehicles, which I from the standpoint of greenhouse gas emissions and really reducing that in terms of climate change, I think is a smart thing to do. Whether it can be done in that time frame, well, that's another big question. But that's where we're heading. We're heading towards electrification of transportation. Whether people like it or not, it really needs to go that way. So here we are, Gualala, ideal location really on the coast for a charging station, and there's nothing here and there's nothing in the works. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, nothing yet, but we can keep working on it.
Yeah, we can. Maybe an opportunity will come up, but these things take time.
Yeah.
I was just thinking 15 years ago, where were we? Because 2035 is 15 years off. 15 years ago, we were just hearing about the first hybrids. And now more and more we're hearing about all electric cars. Volvo has turned their entire line to all electric. I think the 15-year thing is actually very doable. You've seen the Tesla pickup truck. I can't imagine the local contractors driving those, but maybe in 15 years they'll have a Dodge Ram all electric that proves itself effective for local use here. So yeah, I agree with you, Don. It's something that we want to keep working on.
Yeah, and the other thing, you spoke of Tesla. They just had their battery day last week, and their goal is to bring down the price of an electric vehicle to about 25 grand, which is incredibly competitive then with currently priced gasoline vehicles.
On a related note, I heard today that the cost of electric power, wind power, which we have plenty of on the coast or could have plenty of on the coast, is actually the cheapest source of power in America right now. It's cheaper than coal. And solar is third cheapest. So those things are getting much more economical as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks also again, Don, for that report. Next is the Telecommunications Committee, and that is Don and Tom.
Yeah,
So
Don, I didn't tell you, but I prepared a slide. Can I go ahead and share?
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And you're welcome to add anything on this. I'll try to get through this pretty quickly because the hour is getting late. We have good news to report. Last month, we heard that CalNEVA was going to abandon the Gualala market by September 30th. And Don and I went to work on this. We contacted the the PUC. The PUC, the county, various regional broadband coalitions wrote some letters. And we found out that CalNEVA, Mr. Tom Gallardi, the CEO and owner of the company, is actually already working on this with a couple of local vendors. I think I can say this, that he's told us he has a tentative deal with another provider to keep the service going. He promised there would be no cutoff on September 30th, and they plan to issue an announcement, so keep an eye out for that any day now. And that's great news. I'm really happy. We have about 200 people in the area, including older people shut in at home, students who need distance education, and others who rely on CalNEVA. So just having something coming is good news. YouTube, our channel is doing pretty well. We had 135 views at the September meeting, making it the most popular meeting ever. That was our last meeting. Kind of surprised me. It surpassed our August meeting, which had 115, and July, which had 112. So that's, I think, a growing audience. We also have more people who are subscribing to the channel. It's still in single digits, but we're getting there. The sheriff's report, the streetscape discussion last month drew the most attention in the September meeting, but the attendance was remarkably steady through the whole meeting. There were still peaks and valleys, but it was much more level than it had been in prior months. The COVID town hall, by comparison, only drew about 20 people live and about 87 delayed views last time I checked. That was down from 100 live and 250 post views at the start of the pandemic. I think it shows that people are getting a little bit more used to the idea of the pandemic. They have a lot more information, and they weren't counting on this as much. But again, it was a great presentation. We're really happy the sheriff and Barbara Patel and Warren Galletti from the school district were able to join us. I think the town halls that we do are really valued by the community, and having 107 people watching that information, I know I got some good feedback on it. So just wanted to give you an idea on that. Web design we mentioned last month. I've picked out a half dozen interesting designs, and we'll experiment with Don with these. I need the login info, Don. I haven't gotten that yet, and I haven't had time to work on that anyway. So that's kind of where that is. So that's our report for telecom, unless you have something to add to that, Don.
The only thing I would say is that, in terms of the web design, the reality is, for me at least, I mean, I'm very busy with some other projects right now. And I think once the rainy season starts, I'm going to have more time to work on things like web design. But right now, I really don't. And I can give you the login information. I mean, you can test out some things, but
yeah, let me go ahead and test out some things. I have some,
I'll
have some bandwidth in a couple of weeks.
I'll post things as needed just to keep the information there, but I'm not going to guarantee that I will do any major redesign work until rainy season, basically. Yeah. I just have other commitments.
You too, since you've joined the council, I have to say this in public, okay? I commend you so much for all Tom, especially you, for all the extra hours you put in on GMAC Matters. We have all these committees now, and we've never had that in many of our past years, and a lot is getting done, and a lot of good for the community. I have to say that and stress that. Thank you guys both.
Well, thank you, Robert, and thank you for your role. I think you and I have become lightning rods for criticism because of the streetscape issue, and I'm sorry that happens. it happens in controversial issues, but I wish the community knew more about what we're doing in other areas. And I know that even in Ted's survey, 55% of the community supported GMAC overall. That's a 10-point margin over the people who thought were critical. And during the middle of a controversy and a survey that was geared towards streetscape, I think that's any politician would be proud of that 10-point margin. But I'd like to see that 95%.
Yeah, we just have to keep
like
pressing forward, you guys.
Calls during the month asking when the recording would be online, i.e. they were trying to get it through the GMAC website. There was no click or link to YouTube, and I did not know that it was on YouTube until I, finally found out. So there needed to be a link, or still needs to be a link on the website to the YouTube recording, so that the public can go in there and view the meeting, within 5 to 7 days after the meeting has been held. I know you got it up on Tuesday, which is great. I was glad to see that, but I didn't know where it was located. I finally got a link to it and was able to use it myself, as I will have to do next month, or for this month's meeting, because I was disconnected several times via the computer connection. But up to Monday of this week, some people did not know where to go to listen to last month's meeting, and it was supposed to be, quote, a public meeting, unquote, and I heard a lot of commentary on that. So if you could put it up with a link, that would be great.
Mary, that's good feedback. Please remember that when we do put it up, we send out a link to all the council members. So you got a link as soon as it went up that I sent to you by email. And also we can put a link. We can put a link on the GMAC site as well. Don can handle that. And in this case, last time we had a little bit of a delay because Don was doing the recording and I wasn't, and he had to hand it off to me physically. So this time I have the recording, and I expect this meeting to be posted by tomorrow night. I'll send the link to Don and to the rest of the council. And I'll also post it, as I do each month, on the Gualala Marketplace page and the Point Arena page, along with the highlights of the meeting and the timestamps of where people can find various discussions. Everybody should know that it's available there too, and that reaches thousands of people on the South Coast, in addition to the people who might come to our website looking for it. So it's good feedback. We will take that into consideration. Thank you.
And the agenda needs to go up on our website as well, because I've got a couple of calls. Where's the agenda?
It's on the website.
And they were not on my agenda list. I have about 10 or 12 people on my agenda list that I send. Ms. Dahl happens to be one of them. So it would be nice to have that agenda be on the website come Monday evening.
It was this week. When you sent out the agenda, I put it on the website right away. As far as the recording, I guess I was not totally aware that should be on the website as well. Tom, if you could just, when you actually put it up on YouTube, you send me ping me, let me know it's there.
Yeah, I sent it to the whole council.
Yeah, well then I guess I missed that particular email, but then
I read through the survey.
Don't Mary,
there were many comments about no communication with the public regarding minutes, agenda, what's happening, where to find the information. And if, you guys really want it very, very out there, very open, and very easy for the community and the public to get a hold of, read, and comment. And so that's why my comments right now, I'm all for openness, and I know you guys are for sunlight and sunshine on everything, and I'm only trying to promote that. Thank you so much, Don and Tom.
You're welcome, Mary, and thank you for the feedback. I want you to know that the agenda not only was on our website on Monday night, but it was also on the Gualala Facebook page today. I got no comments on it, but I did see those comments in Ted's survey, and I highlighted it on the Gualala Facebook page. I was looking to see if I could pull it up. But yeah, I mean, we get it out to, I would have to say this. Since I've been on the council and since I knew about the council, we are now about 1,000 or 2,000% ahead of where we were on public notification about the meeting. Not too many people read those pieces of paper on the post office wall, but when you put it out on a Facebook page read by 4,000 people, it gets a lot more attention. And so does the YouTube video. That's why we're seeing our views climb from month to month. That's something we never had before. So before we used to have 10 people show up at a meeting, on a big meeting, and now we have 115 people or 135 people watching the meeting in their own time when they can in the month in between. So I think we're making giant leaps on this, and we'll keep making giant leaps, but your feedback is welcome and helpful. Thank you.
And keep in mind, all of you, that we're in these tough COVID times and people are just getting up to speed and accustomed to this new way of getting the information out. The minute Mary told me that, or mentioned to me that somebody wanted to see the video of the last month's meeting, I certainly can't get it on the website, but I mentioned it or passed that message on from Mary to Don and Tom, and it was on right away. So we gotta just be patient as we get up to speed with getting the notification out. But still, like Tom just said, so many more people are able to participate in this public meeting process now than ever before, it seems like. I mean, before we did the best we could with posting our agendas and people would come, but this is tenfold better. So anyway, again, Tom and Don, thanks for getting that video up right away, and we'll just continue to do the best we can.
Yeah,
I'm very tempted to print the agenda on International Orange and hang it at the two places, the postal office and the Anchor Bay store.
That's a good idea.
Orange. It ought to catch somebody's eye.
It's a good idea.
I just might do it next month.
Okay.
Go wild.
Vibrant green or
hot pink,
blue or purple. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about it.
I think you're a hot pink girl.
Oh, I loathe pink. I've always loathed pink. But it might attract people. On the other hand, it's used so much. Maybe International Orange or bilious sundial yellow might be something that would stick out amongst all that white paper.
Okay, Mary. Anything else from the Telecommunications Committee?
Nope.
Thank you, Don and Tom. Okay, let's move on to 7G. That's the report from the Water Resources Ad Hoc Committee. That's Don Hess and myself. As you all know from last month's meeting, we just formed this committee, and we haven't been able to meet yet. Don and I are hoping to meet this next week. Mm-hmm. As far as the North Fork of the Gualala River flows go, it's pretty alarming as to how low these flows have been and for how long now. The latest reading today is 2.01 cubic feet per second, going past the USGS, the United States Geological Survey gauge on the North Fork. And it's been dipping below this 2 cubic feet per second mark. You all know, if you look at the North Gualala Water Company website, they have mandatory water conservation requirements that have been in effect for some time now. So it becomes really worrisome that these mandatory water rationing may become the norm someday unless we do something. So as I said, we just created this committee. Don and I will do our best to meet next week. I understand also from the past month's meeting of the Gualala Community Services District that an idea was brought up about the GCSD, the Community Services District, building a freshwater storage reservoir for the North Gualala Water Company. It was just a proposal that the North Gualala Water Company could then purchase the drinking water from the GCSD. So that presents itself with a lot of interesting challenges, but possibly something could be worked out between the public and the private sector on this. And it may take it may be the time to consider, or it may be the time to consider making North Gualala Water Company a public water utility altogether. So these are some of the kind of ideas that are positive and forward thinking. And I think Don and I on this committee, we look forward to discussing these and other ideas. Okay, that's my take on the newly formed committee. And Don, please say whatever you'd like on this too.
I don't have a whole lot to add. I mean, yeah, we're going to hopefully meet next week for the first time and start to consider some of these issues that you raised, Robert. But I have a question for you from a standpoint of historical records. I mean, how is this looking, 2 cubic feet per second? I mean, historically, if you go back 10, 20 years.
If you look at the records that are provided by the U.S. Geological Survey online, they have data going back, median daily statistics going back 13 years. And every year, that's roughly what they show is 13 years of history. And it's just historically never been this low, nor for this long, the flows of the North Fork. So it's very, very concerning.
Awesome.
Anybody else have anything they would?
Yeah, I have a question about that. Robert, given your expertise with the GCSD and your close following of the water issue, I'm just curious about Ted Williams is here. I'm just curious about the likelihood that this could get approved quickly. And
Tom, I think this is a long time down the road. We brought it up to the attention of the community and the water company many years, decades plus ago. I mean, the water moratorium alone has been going on for 10, 12 or more years now. And so the idea of a reservoir is nothing new, but it was new for me to hear that the North Gualala, that the Community Services District had brought up the suggestion of possibly building since they are a public entity, they're more apt to be able to get grant money. That they even proposed the idea is just out of this realm for me. I mean, that we could use something similar to what the Sea Ranch has, a reservoir. And as Don so eloquently stated in the meeting of last month, we need to be able to find a way to capture water that when we have high flows and it runs out to the ocean, we should be able to capture that during the high flow seasons and provide for ourselves and other species during the low flow times. And it's only getting worse as year after year goes by. We need to do something fast, but to answer your question, Tom, I don't think this is a big undertaking. This is just not gonna happen that quickly. The engineering, everything that's involved. I think back to this Community Services District, how long it took to get a sewer plant built. It is a big undertaking.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know how long it took a Sea Ranch to construct their water reservoir. It was probably a number of years. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do we have a contact with whoever's responsible for the Sea Ranch system?
We can easily pursue that, Don. When we have our meeting, we can even pursue personnel through the Community Service District, the district manager, the board members of the GCSD, and they also work closely with the Sea Ranch. So we'll be able to have some good contacts as we get further on our committee.
Okay, great.
Okay, anybody else in the audience or have anything to say on water? Okay, so what time is it getting to be? We're getting 8:30, so we're doing okay. H&I, discussion on time limits for the public and council. A discussion on that would be next.
This is Melissa's issue, I believe. Melissa, is this something you wanted to talk about, Melissa?
Yes, I'm prepared to speak about it.
And
Okay.
Melissa, you can't see it, but I put up a chart on the screen with some code sections from our bylaws regarding
Okay,
time
you've got
limits.
5.01 and 6.01?
I
Yes, he
have
does.
501B and 601, and I also have 401, the presiding officer and chair, which is very short. And it says the chair shall be the presiding officer at all meetings. And for a definition of presiding officer, I turn to the US Senate rules, which says it's the senator charged with maintaining order and decorum, recognizing members to speak, and interpreting the Senate's rules, practices, and precedents. And you probably can tell them about the other parts of the 501B, which is the non-agenda items for the public input, and 601 for the public hearings, and express your concerns on that. And the exact language is up on the screen.
Yeah, and we can refer back to this, but let's hear what Melissa has to say on this agenda item.
Okay, right now, our normal practice has been, since I started, for 3 minutes for public input on non-agenda items, but right now the bylaw does not state such, which is probably fine. It's just something to put on all the agendas. I think we ought to note that whether we change it to this or we just acknowledge, yes, this is doing this, but members of the public, or for that matter, GMAC members themselves, shall have 3 minutes to speak on non-agenda items, at which point the council can decide if those items need to be on the next month's agenda or not, or if the council needs the speaker to expound upon their subject a few more minutes so the council can make such a decision. That's pretty much all 5.01 is.
Okay.
6.01 is a little different. 6.01, well, allocate, let me read what I wrote about it today. Allocating public statements up to 60 minutes while arbitrarily limiting individual speakers to a mere 3 minutes with no regard whatsoever to any possible tally of how many members of the public actually wish to speak on any particular review hearing is insulting the public and downright disrespectful at best. It would be more respectful to officially allocate in the bylaws a 5-minute minimum to be adjusted according to the number of people desiring to speak. If you're going to give the public 60 minutes to speak, and there are only three people who care to speak about that particular review hearing, they should be given more than 3 minutes.
Right, and that is usually at the discretion of the chair, and I have been pretty flexible on that, as you have noted, Melissa, right?
No, I haven't, not since the bylaws have been passed, because the bylaws don't give any wiggle room. The bylaws say the members of the public shall have up to 3 minutes each, period. There's no wiggle room in there in the bylaws.
But
and it should be changed to reflect that.
Right, but it's still, what overrides that would be that I'm the presiding officer at present, I'm the chair, and so I can use my judgment and my flexibility on letting people speak more if I feel it's warranted. I think back to before we did our bylaws review and changes, and regarding the, what was it, the cell tower issues, and I think we went out of our way to make sure everybody was heard on that, if you recall.
We also had different bylaws.
Right, I'm saying it was before the bylaws, but we also realized over time that we need to have some kind of guidelines, and the bylaws were due for a review anyway, so that we have some kind of restraints on how many people can speak for how long. It just rambles on and on sometimes, so we at least have something to go by now.
Exactly. You notice I have not suggested that there should be any change to the statement. Public statements may continue for up to 60 minutes. I just think we need to incorporate in the bylaws the wiggle room.
Well, I think Robert's right on that. As the presiding officer, he has the wiggle room.
As the presiding officer, he's bound to stick to the bylaws or change the bylaws.
The bylaws say several times that he has discretion to extend the period of time, not in that particular reference, but it does say he has the as the presiding officer, he has the right to interpret the rules and practices, and he's done that consistently. And I agree. I have to commend Robert. He's generally very generous with time for the public to speak, as he was tonight with Ms. Dahl.
We want to.
Oh, I definitely understand. There have been times when someone would stand up and start to talk about a non-agenda item, and we're still talking half an hour later.
Yeah, we want to hear everything people have to say, but we're also getting criticized for how long our meetings are. So we have to have some kind of organization and guidelines on this. And so I think we're doing pretty good, and we're using a little bit of flexibility as we go. Okay. I don't know what you want us to still discuss on this, Melissa, but
it's just what I said was that I believe the wording needs to be slightly changed.
mm-hmm.
Not completely changed, just slightly changed.
So as it refers to public input on non-agenda items primarily, is that what you're saying?
No, on the public input on what is this, review hearing. Okay, let me put it this way. You've got a review hearing and someone wants to put a pig farm next to your house. It's not your pig farm. You're not the one presenting the CDP, but they're going to only let you listen and talk for 3 minutes according to the bylaws. You look at the bylaws and you get upset. But if you saw that everyone would get up to 60 minutes as a whole, and you and your neighbor could each speak 30 minutes, that would be much better. That would be more respectful to actually state that, because this it's just not right. It needs to be changed. I'm tired.
We have lots of people that want to give comments on different topics at times. And so getting through the whole list of people, depending on how many are attending our meetings, is what would be the first prerogative. Then going
Right.
back and letting people be able to speak a little bit more, that would be at the discretion of the chair, whoever that is, okay? So I think we have a good system in place where there's always going to be some exceptions to the hard, fast rule that we have in our bylaws at this point, but we at least have those guidelines now so that we can get through our subject matter. And I hope any future chairman would be doing the same thing.
Okay, also that 3 minutes is only in review hearings. And when you do the tricky parliamentary thimble rigging tactics like you have and dictated how people are going to speak, that's what's caused people to quit. That's one of the things that's getting people upset, and that needs to stop. That's what Mitch Conley used to silence people.
Well, it was at the August meeting, I think you're referring to, right? Where we had very difficult subject matter, and we needed to, we have the bylaws in place, and we have the guidelines through the bylaws, but I also asked for courtesy at that August meeting because of the lengthy topics we had on that agenda, and everybody seemed to be in agreement we didn't take an official vote, Melissa, but I reiterated pretty much what the bylaws state. And I said, okay, is everybody okay with these guidelines so that we can get through the agenda tonight? And nobody seemed to object except for one person, I think it was, slightly verbally. It wasn't really an official objection even, but I can't help it that people decided to resign because of that. I mean, we have our bylaws in place that we all agreed to, and we got through the meeting in a timely fashion, I thought, but there was a lot of subject matter that night. And we didn't even really make it through the whole agenda, come to think of it, when it was a very lengthy meeting. Tom.
Yeah, I just wanted to refer back to, and Melissa wasn't present for this meeting, but when this rule was put into the bylaws partly at the request of the person who protested most about it at our August meeting, Sharon. And there was discussion about whether the council should put in a time restriction for individual members of the public during these hearings. And there was an agreement, and correct me if I'm wrong, Robert or Don, there was an agreement that it should be 3 minutes and that the total period should be 30 minutes. I had suggested maybe it would be an hour. Or that was the council discussion, could be an hour. I said, you know, do we want 60 minutes or 30 minutes for the public? Do we want 3 minutes or do we want 5 minutes? You know, we went through all that.
Right.
And I think it was because of the telecommunications towers hearing, we had some people had kind of run-on presentations and prevented other people from speaking. And we decided if we were going to have a limitation on the total amount of time, we had to be fair and divvy it up. And it was clearly stated then that Robert would use, or the chairman would use their discretion and allow more time when appropriate. But we wanted to have rules in the bylaws, and that's how it got in there. I just wanted to explain that by way of background. You know, my own.
Well, there's no mention of any discretion. It's just arbitrarily, boom, 3 minutes. That's
well,
it. Nothing.
I think you have to. I think you have to consider Section 401 with the presiding officer having discretion over the rules.
Yeah.
It doesn't say that.
That's what a presiding officer does.
It says nothing about discretion over the bylaws at any point.
Okay.
Doesn't say that.
And the, okay, Melissa, any other comments on this item? Can we go on to, thanks for your input. Can we go on to I, discussion of the GMAC mission, Mendocino County Policy 51. That was also Melissa and Tom, or that was both of you.
Well, my only input on that is that GMAC desperately needs to get the new official map of the GMAC jurisdiction. Otherwise, how will people know if they qualify to be on the council? We need to acquire a copy. Copy needs to be sent to the ICO and printed in the paper with requests for volunteers to be on the council. I haven't seen a copy of the official new GMAC jurisdiction map.
The jurisdictional map, I can get you a copy of that, Melissa.
The new one?
I don't know how new it is, but it's been the one that we've always had.
No, I remember distinctly hearing Mary Mobert telling us sometime in the last year that it had been updated, and I saw what it was essentially a very poor photocopy with a highlighter.
Let's ask Mary.
With a wobbly line around it.
Okay, let's ask Mary to give some input on that.
Fire Chief Warren said that it was being updated about 4 years ago, and he was going to get back to us about this. I have called him several times regarding same, and he either doesn't get back to me or is very vague. I would like to have him contacted by a council member rather than me to say, hey, what's the updated thing? Because we want to publish a map in the ICO to show where the district is and get new members. I think Warren would cooperate with you guys more, whereas me, I'm an executive secretary, you know, and a woman, and, you know, he just might not in this fire season have that much time. So if one of you guys could ring him and say, hey, you know, I'd like to see this new map that was created 3 or 4 years ago by, I think it was the state fire, Caltrans Fire Department, or the, you know, volunteer fire department brigade of the state of California, or I don't know. But there was some official above him that redid the map.
Okay. Let me give you this history. Mary probably remembers this also, but the GMAC boundaries, when it was formed, it ran coincident with the South Coast Fire District, and that is maybe getting revised by Greg Warner or by the fire chief or something. I don't know that, Mary. I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, well, we need to know so that people will know if they can apply to be a member of GMAC.
let me tell you roughly what the boundaries are, though. It's Iverson
I don't-
Road, huh?
I know what the rough boundaries are. I don't
Okay.
need the rough boundaries. I need the new map.
The exact map. Okay,
We all the exact new map. That's all.
let's,
The old one is not exact anymore, or at least it's been retired, is my impression. And I don't know how much of it, probably 90% of it is accurate, maybe 10% is not. But which 10% is not and which 90% is up for question because we haven't been told.
okay, let me follow up on that with the fire chief, with Greg Warner, okay? From the very get-go, the resolution to create the GMAC, I think it says somewhere in that original resolution language that the GMAC boundaries are to run coincident with the South Coast Fire District boundaries. So I'll take that upon myself to talk to Greg Warner, okay? And then we'll get you a copy of that new map. Okay, Melissa?
Excellent. We all need it. It needs to be online, needs to be in the paper.
We do. And yeah, Don, when he revises the website in the winter, he may want to put that new map onto the website at some point. So yes, it would behoove us all.
Yes.
I can say I just checked Google to see if there's an updated map, and I could not find an updated map. It looked like the same one, but just a better quality of it.
Okay, maybe the fire chief doesn't have it yet. We don't know.
We'll see. Otherwise, on this issue, the reason I put this on was because I think it was Melissa who was asking about the actual duties of GMAC. And I came across policy number 51, which was approved by the Board of Supervisors in 2016 and seems to supersede previous rulings. There's a part of the website that says that our primary duty is to review and update the local coastal plan. But this ruling seems to be quite different and says, among other things, while the concerns, insights, and discussions relayed by a MAC are key components in the deliberative process regarding county zoning, the general plan, or the local community plan, members do not make or set policies, ordinances, or laws. And it emphasizes the importance of serving as a consistent and inviting community forum for the public to hear and give comments about a number of local and countywide topics. And it also kind of hints that it's a great place for county officials to come. We have one with us tonight if he wants to make himself known. It's just interesting. So if you haven't seen policy number 51, I sent out a copy to council members twice in the last month, but I could send it again if you missed that email. It's worth a read, and it's a little bit different from what you might find on the county website, which I think is a little outdated. That's all I had to say about that.
Okay. Good. We've always only been in an advisory council and only given our advisory recommendations. In fact, I can remember in many of our past chairpersons had always reiterated that at the beginning of the meeting. So we all have to keep that in mind. We only make recommendations. So, okay. Can we move on to number 8, Administrative Secretary Mobile report? And Mary, I just wanted to ask you, you did get my return email today, correct?
I haven't gotten it, no. I can see if I have it now.
Yeah, I responded to your question about your past month's invoice.
Oh, yes, you said that that I had that you will that you had put it reiterated it and will tell them tomorrow. You'll send it tomorrow when I send you my invoice, because I wasn't able to print it today because my printer and the program aren't shaking hands.
I just wanted you to know that I responded to your email on that, and that once I get your invoice for this past month of September, I will contact the county again on your missing August check, okay?
Very well, I appreciate that.
So go ahead and please present us with your report for September.
It usually takes 2 weeks for those checks to go through. So if it is entered tomorrow, it will not be handled until the 8th. It will not be cut till the 15th, and I will not receive it until the 20th or the 21st.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
I got it in pretty quick.
I usually look for it around the 3rd week, but when the 4th week comes and the 5th week comes, I kind of wonder what the hoo-hoo's going on.
Yeah. I also attached correspondence, or I included, I copied and pasted a correspondence from the county to myself, just to make you aware of that they're behind. I don't know if you noticed that, but
yes,
that's the last thing we wanted.
Someone was bumped up and someone was again bumped from below up into their position.
Yeah.
And their email address, and please contact them because the gentleman to whom you were speaking is going to be out of town till January. So that was nice to know too.
Believe me, after seeing your letter to the editor in today's paper, that's the last thing I want to do is see a delay on your check from the county. Okay.
Oh, I appreciate
That
that.
was a good letter, Mary.
Oh, thank you very much. I do appreciate that. That was one thing that flummoxed me when I heard it.
Mm-hmm.
So at any rate, my report is that I worked 24 hours this last month. Materials were $6.40 for a total of $366.40. That was a whale of a lot better than last month at
Right.
$550 or 60 some dollars. And
Correct.
I'm very glad that it is lower because GMAC is not given enough money by the county to carry on and support everything you do. And it is a shame. It's a travesty because GMAC serves this community, I feel, very, very well. And one person said, well, keep staff low. Well, honey, you're talking to the only staff you got. So I think the staff is low. But you are not supported by the county, and you guys go out of your way, I feel, to try and represent this community. And I really thank you. Every member of the GMAC has served this community very, very well.
Good, Mary. Thanks
Thank
for.
you, Mary. Mary, I have a question for you. Speaking of serving very, very well, I heard that you went out and made a presentation to a community group this month, and that you were a star.
A community group, and I'm a star. What community group was that?
I don't know. I that's all I heard is that you went out and did a presentation, and there were a lot of questions about GMAC, and you were able to field them well.
Well, it might have been Action Network's board. I'm their executive secretary, and I talked about all of the things that you guys were doing and emailed information regarding it. And the whole board wanted the agenda, and I saw that our co-chair was attending this evening, Mr. Evans. So I don't know if he's still on listening, but Action Network is doing a phenomenal job getting out the disaster information and disaster backpacks. They are helping the community with food and housing, and they've had people coming in who are refugees from this fire and have been able to get them clothing for their children because their kids didn't have shoes. They had to leave in the middle of the night. So Action Network was really very, very glad to hear about GMAC and what you guys were doing. And I was happy to tell them because I represent not only the Seroptimists, but also GMAC on their board. So they already knew about the disaster pamphlet and had printed it, and it had added it to the 40 backpacks that they had handed out as of like the end of last month. And those backpacks were disaster backpacks with lists of what should be there and then personal products and other things. including your disaster pamphlet as a booklet. So they were very, very pleased and very happy to have it not only available, but be able to print it. So.
Well, thank you for doing that. You know, I think I
Yeah.
speak for the whole council when I say that we're very glad to have you as an ambassador for us. And if there's any other time that, you know, one of the groups you belong to, and I know you're very active, if there's ever any opportunity to speak and explain what we're doing on different levels, I know Robert or I would be very happy to go out and talk about that. And I also want to compliment both you and your son for dominating page 16 of the ICO today with 2 brilliant letters about the election.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I have not seen the ICO yet. I haven't left the house. I've been busy getting GMAC together, and I finally was able to go down at 4:15, 4:30 to get a egg salad sandwich and be able to come back up and finish all the GMAC that I had to do. So I haven't gone anywhere today. I was out of town yesterday, and I usually do part of my GMAC work the day before, but
Oh,
I
good for you.
I had to take Linda Reno to doctor's appointments yesterday.
Well, good for you and Brandon. You'll want to frame this page, I think.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I hadn't heard. Thank you very much.
Mary,
And both guys.
thank you for your report, Mary, okay?
Certainly.
So, and send me that invoice as soon as you can, okay?
Yes, I'm hoping Brendan
And
will be able to get
I'll-
the computer and the program and the printer to handshake tomorrow, because I pressed some button and it does not want to shake hands and
Okay.
print.
I will pass
I
it
have no
on.
idea what I did. I try and stay out of the tall grass.
Okay,
Sometimes my fingers slip and all of a sudden I'm eaten by alligators.
okay, it will be passed on to the county auditor, okay?
Very well, thank you.
So next on the agenda, we have number 9, Vice Chairman Murphy's report,
I will pass tonight. Thank you.
okay?
Taking enough time, I think.
I've passed a number of months, but I'm gonna reflect on a couple things here and mention some words here, okay? So bear with me a little bit, it won't be that long. It's again gonna be revolving around the streetscape, so I feel we all need to take a serious and realistic look at the history of the Gualala Downtown Enhancement Project. It has been well over 15 plus years of planning now. And as a region, I don't think we want to lose out on the best possible project. So that's just a statement I wanted to make. And then some historical perspective. Although a lot of progress has been made in Gualala, I think back to the public sewer project in the 90s. I think back to the utility undergrounding project that was completed in May of 2013. Alone not having to deal with the telephone pole and at the Gualala Hotel, or between the Gualala Hotel and the old post office location, was monumental. And then not to mention the 74 PG&E and telephone poles and then close to 6 miles of thick wires that were removed from our skyscape was a huge development in town. The new post office was relocated on August 6th, 2016 to its new location. That also helped with some of the circulation in the downtown core of Gualala. Then thanks to the Sunstra Mall and the new owners of the Gualala Hotel, we now have a paved parking lot behind the Gualala Hotel, which many of us use for parking. At present, we have a Highway 1 resurfacing project going on between Point Arena and the Gualala River Bridge, the likes of which we haven't seen in 35 plus years. And that was only, and the only exclusion of that is the 0.6 of a mile for the Gualala Streetscape Project. We are at the footsteps of the Sea Ranch. It is world renowned for being an environmentally sensitive planned unit development. And just now recently, I just heard about it today, the acquisition of the acquisition by RCLC of the Mill Bend parcels. Maybe even down the road, Gualala River Park, and then maybe also a Redwood Coast Recreation Center. I just want to say this in closing. We need to look welcoming as you enter Gualala from the north and south. We need to look impressive and cohesive. I'm not sure adding official parking spaces on both sides of the highway is the way to go. We can do better, and we will. So that's my report for tonight. I hope I kept it short.
Send me that, Robert, please.
What?
Email me that.
Okay, I sure will.
Thank you.
I sure will.
Thank you.
The next item is a walk C assignment. And this is a little bit puzzling to me because I don't believe we have ever really walked the THP in the past, have we?
No. You know, and I think the Walk C assignment is just the title for that section.
Okay, is that how that went, Mary?
Yeah, I think I'm responsible for that probably.
Okay.
But it's just an assignment of a THP and who would want to look into that.
Now, Mary said she sent something out on this. I don't think I received something, or maybe I missed it in my emails. I would love to see this this document that you sent out again, Mary. So could you send that to me again?
Okay.
I don't think it was
I'll
very,
write this down.
I don't think it was much. I mean,
Wasn't much? Okay.
No, it was just a line on a piece of paper. Let me see if I can find it. I think you can just Google.
Yeah, we have to get on the Department of the Forestry Department's website, I guess, and that takes a big effort.
THP ends in 22, doesn't it? MEN? I don't have it in front of me. It's over on my other desk.
It ends in 150-MEN.
Oh, it's a 150-MEN. Okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about it. I just saw it come in and let you know because I look for Sonoma County and Mendocino County Gualala River THPs.
Right.
And I let you know about every one of them, whether they're way to hay and gone up in Sonoma County or whether they're on some tributary to the North Fork.
Yeah, and that's
Then you guys decide whether you want to look at it or not.
right.
Yeah,
It is concerning when it's close to the drinking source of Gualala. Yes.
Right.
I believe also I put it on here, the comments were open 9/3 and closed 9/18. This is typical of CDF. We've commented before after the date, and it doesn't seem to matter too much since we didn't know about this until the middle of the month.
I received that THP. Let me look real fast and I can tell you immediately the date. September the 11th.
Yeah, and the comments were due by September 18.
I find that
September 11th was when I
period window for comments.
Yeah. Yeah,
they only have like 4 or 5 days where you can comment.
Personally,
cut it off, but they do receive commentary after that because they know that they send it out to departments and organizations that can't function as quickly as their date. So they do pay attention to GMAC, and I have complained several times to them about how this flyer comes in the mail. It becomes ripped up to the point where it's put into an envelope by post office people, and some of it's missing. So I had complained about that several times. Now they send this to us in an envelope, sealed, so that it comes to us whole. So they do listen, and the lady to whom I speak, and if you ever want to go to their library, this woman is magnificent. She knows what she is doing, and if you call their library number here and ask for the librarian or ask about information on the THPs, you will get this lady and you will be impressed. And she will help you for as long as you want to stay on the phone.
Okay.
I can't say enough about how good that lady is, how knowledgeable she is, and
okay, well, can council members discuss this now?
Yeah. I found
Go ahead.
I found Mary's email with the PDF attached, and I've forwarded to the whole council. So
Great,
Robert, you can
okay.
take a look at this thing.
Thank
I'm not
you,
sure
Don.
the number matches up with what we have on the agenda, but the information that's on the agenda came from there.
Okay, Don, you got the, Mary, let's hear from,
Could the council please discuss this?
Mary, let's listen to Don now.
Of course.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I think we need to take a look at this. Hopefully the comment period is not over. We still have time to provide some advice or something, or at least a comment. But this logging plan is directly in the area where we get our water, the North Fork of the Gualala River. So it's a direct impact potentially on our water quality and even the availability of water. The reason I say that is because if you notice what's printed there in the agenda, they mentioned clear cutting. When you clear cut an area of a forest, that area becomes very dry. There's little or no moisture left then in that soil. And that has impacts on any rivers or streams in the area, and also on creatures that live and survive in these forested areas. So I think it's something we need to take a look at and not just let it pass by without any type of comment.
No, I agree 100%, Don. The way the agenda reads is it says adjacent to the Little North Fork. Where that is exactly, we don't know unless we see the map provided in the timber harvest plan. I just know that the Little North Fork and the North Fork where we get our water are both still relatively pristine areas and some of the last remaining habitat for the salmonids, right? Up in those areas, those reaches. And so we certainly want to have some say and some input on those delicate areas, I think.
You're exactly right, Robert.
So,
I have to apologize. The document I sent you does not have this number on it or this description on it. So I'm sure that's an accurate number and description, but I'm not sure where it came from.
well, so we're at the end of our agenda. So along with this THP, maybe we can leave that on the agenda for next month as one of our standing items. How do you council members feel?
I think we need to take some action between now and the next meeting.
Okay.
I think a couple of us need to be assigned to this.
Yeah.
And look into it and report back in a month.
Okay, I agree. Who would like to do that? A lot of times you'll see these comment periods extended, I know from past experience. So that could happen on this. So we would have an opportunity to give our input.
Well, I would one.
I can look into it with you, Don.
Okay.
Okay. So it's like a walk-see, except we're just doing research paper-wise is what we're doing, right? And
right.
Map-wise.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, I think we've done pretty good this time. We limited the meeting to, well, we had a lot of things to get through again. Once again, there's a lot of important items that we're faced with here as a community and as a council. So, but 3 hours and 10 minutes isn't all that bad. Once a month. Not mentioning all the extra time we all put in, volunteer time. But are any other comments from the audience or from the council members or from administrative secretary? Or can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I say let's give a motion to adjourn a party. Let's really entertain it.
Okay. Well, so Don has made the motion. Do you want to second it, Melissa?
I'll second it.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for your participation. Let's take a roll call vote. Melissa?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye, and I'll note that that was the shortest meeting we've had in the last 4 or 5 months. So congratulations. It was a complicated meeting, but we got through a lot.
Like 45 minutes, maybe. Okay, and I'm an aye also. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Mary. And forward what you have. And I wish you all a good night. See you in the
Good
community.
Okay, good night.
Okay, thanks, Tom, Don, everybody.
Go ahead and stay well out there, you guys.
Thanks,
Okay,
Mary.
you
You
too.
too. Good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night.